Good evening, everybody. Welcome, Chiefs Kingdom, to the Chiefs Digest live Q&A here on Tuesday night. You've got my big giant face right now. Nick Jacobs, our good friend from KSHB 41, is going to be joining us here probably a little bit earlier than usual. I think he's going to be coming in about 7:15. Grocery store, all taken care of, all the duties. So Nick is going to come in and be with us till the bitter end, probably about 9 o'clock. So looking forward to a great night with everybody tonight. I see some of you already in the chat. I'd love to see that. Yes, 7:05. I think I get 7:04. May have been able to get 7:04. So I'll check the over-unders in the chat to see who nailed the time that I was going to show up. I was on target to be actually early and ready to go. I would like to have told you that I was on this phone with a source. The reality is I was on the phone with my predecessor at Chiefs Digest, Herbie Teope, talking about some Chiefs and talking about some things that were going on. So that was what held me up. So maybe I'd like to say maybe I can talk Herbie into coming into one of the discussions one day. He is, quote unquote retired, even though he's doing some stuff with the Associated Press right now. But maybe we can talk him in one day to coming into the show and catching up with everybody. Don't have a lot of comments and everything. I won't have much of a monologue tonight. I feel like I'm Steve Spagnuolo. Just let's get ready to go. Have a great night tonight and get to your questions. I know there's going to be a lot on everybody's mind because it's a busy week for the next week. Chiefs are done with practice this week. They've got the game on Thursday night, obviously, against the Chicago Bears. You are not going to see very many starters based on what I've seen and heard the last few days at practice. Definitely not going to see very many starters. I think Jalen Watson might be the quote unquote, biggest starter that you're going to see on Thursday night playing any certain amount of snaps. There might be a few. And I mean, I really think that for the most part, the depth chart on this team at most positions is pretty much nailed down. I just think that there's more conversation and more decisions to be made about what you're going to keep at certain positions than there has been in a long time. I mean, offensively, do you keep 9 or 10 offensive linemen? Is it 3 or 4 tight ends? Is it 3 or 4 running backs? Is it 6 or 7 wide receivers? The only thing I can tell you for sure is I'm pretty sure this team's only keeping 2 quarterbacks. But even on the defensive side, is it 9 or 10 defensive linemen? How many ends and tackles is it going to be? Is it 5 or 6 linebackers? Is it 5 or 6 corners? Is it 4 or 5 safeties? That's going to be the final decisions on this team. I mean, there's, like I said, I feel like the depth chart, the only real one spot on the depth chart that I think is really tough to judge right now. I mean, the two are probably corner and wide receiver. Wide receiver is the one I think of the most. Is really difficult to kind of identify the depth chart and where it's at. Corner is maybe complicating itself that way with just the injuries. I'll be very interested to see who does and who does not get some playing time on Thursday night. It's definitely going to explain a few things to us and preface a few of the moves that are going to be made on Tuesday. As usual, I mean, the Chiefs, because of their schedule, the Chiefs do have a practice scheduled for Monday and Tuesday next week. Right now, that Tuesday practice is scheduled at 1:20, which would take them. I mean, they would be on the field at 3 p.m. when the roster deadline is. So I know last year, because of the weather, because it was so hot, they did move that to a morning practice. I wouldn't be surprised if they did it again, just so that they've got practice done before the deadline. I think that's kind of awkward to be having a deadline, and because at that point you really are having to decide, hey, do you send some guys on the practice field or not? Do you hold some guys back? Players that you've already made decisions on, do you hold them off the practice field? And in case you're wondering, I mean, do the Chiefs, are they one of those teams that might make some moves early? One reason why the Chiefs typically don't make their moves early is that they just want the luxury of options. If they, for instance, decide that they want to play somebody on waivers, they could do that on Friday. They could do it on Saturday. They could re-select somebody over the weekend. But what happens if on Monday's practice somebody tweaks an ankle? And now all of a sudden, do you wish you had the guy back that you placed on waivers on Saturday? You might. So that's why, the Chiefs typically do wait until the very, very end to make their moves. I'll be interested to see if that anything changes with that this year. If they do, maybe make a few moves early or save everything until the deadline on Tuesday. We'll see what happens. But it's a busy. This is obviously one of the craziest weeks on the NFL calendar. Getting down to the 53 players, it's a tough week. Tough for the players, agents, front offices. It's a brutal week, but a lot going on. But let's just get right into your questions. I know Nick. Did I see him in the conversation? Nick's mixing comments, but he's got to go get his lottery tickets. That's what he said. He had one duty. He told me he had everything done, and now he's got to go get that lottery ticket. So I guess it won't be maybe 7:15. Chris, how does practice and training camp change with the team now in Kansas City instead of training camp? Just kind of leading right into it. Great transition there, Chris. The Chiefs practiced the last 2 days, Monday and Tuesday, and they're going to practice again next week, Monday and Tuesday. Next week's practices, that Monday and Tuesday, are then before they go into the dead period. Every team now under the NFL, under the CBA, they get a 5-day off period before they then begin practice for the basically start the brand new season. And I guess for the Chiefs it's a little bit different. I guess I'm not sure how they're able to count one of their days because they're going to come back on Sunday for getting ready for the Thursday night game. So their week basically begins on a Sunday with practice that Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. But for instance, Chris, the last couple of days have been typical practices. The one difference on Tuesday today was that you're getting your backups ready to play. So they were the ones, essentially. They were the guys getting ready to start and play the entire game. So they're the ones going through a game plan. The scout team running some of the stuff that they think that the Bears might, try, and some of the things that they want to see or things that they might see were the starters. So, this was the best scout team offense you're ever going to see at today's practice. You had, Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce running out on a scout team. So that's a good challenge for the guys who are starting. They definitely saw tougher competition in practice on Tuesday than they probably will on Thursday in the game. Those guys gave them some looks. So, but that's how it. I mean, it doesn't really change. I mean, they did practice in the afternoon, which is a difference from training camp. When they were in St. Joe, they would practice in the morning, do walkthroughs in the afternoon. When they get back to Kansas City, Andy Reid likes it to be as much like the regular season as possible. So they do a walkthrough in the morning and then practice in the afternoon. They do have a couple of days off here, so they've got the rest of the week off. They'll have some meetings, I'm sure, here and there, but after the game. But basically, they will get a couple of days off. So they've got Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They will be back on the field for practice on Monday and Tuesday. And those will be, they'll be a little bit different. They'll be structured just like a regular practice. Typically those Monday and Tuesday practices are regular practices and not an abbreviated one, but it's also exclusively at that point pretty much all Ravens. Even though it's not game week yet, they're getting ready for the Ravens. So that's going to be Ravens prep. And then Wednesday, the Chiefs, this is obviously next Wednesday, the 28th, the Chiefs have the kickoff luncheon with the Chamber of Commerce that they do. That's also the day that Brett Veach and his staff are going to be working on getting the practice squad together and signing guys for that, going through the waiver wire. The rest of that week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, will be off days for the team. And then Sunday, which help me with my math here, that'll be the first. Thank you. That will be game week. So September 1st, 2nd, and 3rd will be practice days. That would be basically your Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, except it's Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. And then obviously the off day on a Wednesday, play the game on Thursday night. So that's what it looks like now. It changes a little bit. And they do start to get more into the routine of what a regular season day looks like. So that's how they are doing it. And then your second question, Chris, I see is who are you pounding on the table to keep on the roster? I don't have any favorites. I try not to. Sure, I think there end up being players that you end up rooting for. And I'll be honest. I mean, and Mango gets into it here too. Thoughts on Dave Tobe's comments for Nico today. Nico is an easy guy to root for. I mean, everybody is rooting for him. Now, I think it's easy to say everybody's rooting for him. Well, then why isn't he on the roster? I mean, Brett Veach ultimately has to make that decision, but there's no doubt. I mean, Nico, with the hard work that he's put in, the background that he's had, getting to this point, the injury last year, the attitude. I mean, he's just one of the happier-go-lucky guys you're going to see, and he has worked so freaking hard. I mean, you can tell that. I mean, just as an observer at the practices, you can tell just how hard Nico has worked to get back where he is. What does it mean for his chances? Mango saying a few people saying it all but guarantees on the spot because Tobe usually gets his guys. I mean, it helps. I mean, but think about it. I mean, Dave Tobe will tell you. I mean, he wishes he got to pick as many guys for the team as people seem to think that he does. And there's no doubt. I mean, Tobe has a great deal of influence, and Tobe's feelings on specific players, especially when it comes down to, hey, who is your fifth or sixth linebacker? It's going to be dependent upon who is the better special teams player. So that does make a difference. And if Tobe's, pounding the table for Remigio, I mean, it certainly doesn't hurt his chances, but if Dave Tobe gets to choose one player and has to protect one player, what will it and who would it be? If he is given the option, and I'm not saying that Brett Veach will give him this option or Andy Reid's going to give him this option, but if Dave Tobe is told, okay, coach, you get one guy. There's one guy that you get to put on this 53-player roster that's exclusively your guy that, nobody else is going to override. You're going to get that one choice. Is it Remigio? Would it be somebody else? Is it a Cam Jones? Is it a Deion Bush? Is it someone else that's off the 53? It's hard to say. I mean, and not knowing for sure who's on the 53 and who's not. I mean, this does, I think, absolutely helps Nico's case. Guarantees? No. I mean, there's no guarantees. And the tough thing with Nico has been that if you look at the snaps, and Saturday was a very, very telling day because by and large, I mean, the guys who got snaps in Saturday's game against the Lions, and Nick and I are going to bring up when he comes in, we're going to put up the snap counts and go through them a little bit. But the first half snap counts against the Lions are the most important snaps of the entire preseason. And bless his heart, Nico didn't get any with the first team in the first half. That's a bad sign. Now, the fact that he's on the first kickoff team and he's clearly, one of, I think, Dave Tobe's two best punt returners in his mind. I mean, I think that if he can't have Xavier Worthy back there returning punts, I think he wants Nico Remigio. But the fact that he's not on, not enough in the rotation, that at the receiver spot, the fact that McCole Hardman, Sky Moore, and Justin Ross are all getting reps ahead of him, significant reps ahead of him, not just like one or two, but a lot of reps ahead of him on that first team. It's questionable. I mean, it makes you wonder, if the Chiefs are trying to hide him a bit just to sneak him onto the practice squad. I would like to think that the ball security issues that he had in Jacksonville weren't being held too much against him, but there was a line after that Jacksonville game. A lot of Nico's work went down, and it's hard not to connect those two. So I don't know what to make of Nico. I mean, that's the one of the hardest things to choose. I mean, I had him off my last 53 roster projection simply because, looking at the numbers and looking at the snaps, it's hard to make a case for him. That said, I mean, his special teams value, I think, is very, very high. I think there is some value to having him. I think he has earned a spot on this team. Not my opinion. I mean, not my call, though. I mean, Brett Veach is going to make his call. And if he thinks that Justin Ross and Sky Moore and McCole Hardman are better, for this offense and for this team right now, that's what he's going to go with. I mean, I think it's down to those four players for 2 or 3 spots. But we're not even talking about Kadarius Toney here. I mean, that's complicates things too. I mean, that's going to be a really, really tough room to break through and figure things out. So we'll see what happens. Albert, yeah, I guess I didn't explicitly say it, but I will, clear it up. Today and yesterday practices were open to the media. Next week's practices, Monday and Tuesday, are open to the media, and then that's when it shuts down. So it'll be that Sunday practice before the Ravens is when we just get to go out there for stretch and roll call to see who is practicing and who is not, and then we get kicked out. So it will be changing here in a couple of weeks, but we still have 2 more practices next week that are open to the media to get a little bit of at least insight on maybe where the team will be going with cuts and everything. So, but as we've discussed before, the practices, once they get back to Kansas City, since they are not open to the public, they're sometimes it's worded as that they're on background, sometimes it's off the record, but it's unfortunately we're prohibited from reporting a lot of the details of those practices unless we're able to ask the coaches about them. So that kind of explains a little bit, but we do get to observe them, but there's not a whole lot that technically we're allowed to talk about them. Specifically, we can't talk about lineups, rotations, things of that nature, packages, trick plays, anything of that. So and technically, the Chiefs rule off injuries as well. So that's kind of one of the issues with these practices that are open to the media, but they're not open to the public. Mango, is Felix on the road to being a bust? If not, when should we accept that it might not work out for him in Kansas City? I mean, Mango, there is going to be this year, the first step with Felix into figuring out if it's going to work. I think you need to see some significant improvement. You need to be able to see some significant contributions from him, and we'll see. I can't guarantee. I think that he has looked better this year. I think he's looked more comfortable. I think he's still kind of maturing and growing in that spot. That's the other thing to remember too, is just how young he is. But it comes back once again to, I think he was really in an unfortunate draft spot. I think if the Chiefs, in an ideal scenario, I think they would have loved to have traded back and gotten him. And if the draft were in any other city other than Kansas City, I think they might have done that. I think they might have tried to trade back into the second round and still get Felix and maybe pick up some assets. He's a second round pick. It's kind of hard to me to view him as a first round pick, because I think he should have been a second round pick. That said, you're still, even as a second round pick, you're going to have high expectations. I think the luxury a little bit with Felix is that you've got him for 5 years of control as a first round pick. So, if he doesn't mature as much as you're hoping in year 2, you still have potentially 3 more years with him. And I don't want to sound like I'm somebody who's kicking the can down the curb, but he is still so young and so raw as an edge that I think that extra year of control could end up being important. That this guy could be, a late bloomer. Maybe he doesn't become the player that the Chiefs hope that he can be this year. I think you're going to still see some improvement. I think you are. I think he's going to be a valuable, contributor this year. Is he going to be a starter? I don't know about that, because I think the Chiefs are pretty happy with what they've got, and Karlaftis for sure. You're not going to be replacing him in the lineup, and Mike Dana is a solid player. So I don't know if he's going to be, pushing either one of those guys out of the lineup this year, but he should be pushing them for snaps. He should be pushing Mike Dana for snaps. He should be a contributor in third down packages. He should be able to put up some pressures and some numbers this year. If he doesn't, that's a problem. So I can't say he's on the road to being a bust, Mango, because I just don't think we've seen enough body of work yet. And I'm really intrigued to see what happens this year. So I think he's going to show a lot of improvement this year. Is it going to be enough to say that he's definitively arrived? I don't know, but he's not someone that, unless we see like serious regression this year, he's a guy that if you don't see him become a significant contributor this year, I'm not going to give up until year 3, because he is still young. He's a late bloomer, physically. I think there's a lot of reasons why you should not give up on Felix immediately. I think there's reasons to continue to invest in him. Mark with the question that I think it's a really good question. Chris Roland Wallace have a shot at the 53. I have no reason to believe that he doesn't. Is he on the outside looking in? I think so, because he was a college corner. Chiefs have moved to safety, and he's really played well at that spot. He's gotten a lot of work, but it is a position change for him, and he really seemed to be taken to it. I mean, I think the first couple of weeks, it sounded like and seemed like that, it was a little bit of, learning to swim a little bit. He might have been Dory out there, as Dave Merritt would say. But I think he's really come along. And certainly the Chiefs have been giving him a lot more opportunities. He's kind of, broken out of the pack a little bit. But it's, where is he in that pecking order? Well, he's probably right there with Deion Bush. I mean, you've got your top four guys in Justin Reed, Brian Cook, Jamari Connor, and Jaden Hicks. Then is it Deion Bush or is it Chris Roland Wallace? I mean, I think you would probably say usually go with the younger and you go with the upside. There's no guarantee the Chiefs are even going to keep five safeties, though. So that may be another reason why he ends up being a practice squad candidate. But there's no doubt. I mean, I think he has been the most under the radar player throughout training camp. I mean, it's been clear to me for a few weeks that this guy was starting to make a roster bid. I just didn't think that there was he could crack it far enough to be able to get into, because there's just no way cracking that top four. I mean, he can be pretty good, but I just didn't think he was going to be able to edge past any of the guys in the top four. And the Chiefs for a long time seemed like it was 6-4 as far as their defensive backfield was going to go, 6 corners and 4 safeties. I could see it being 5-5 now. And if it's 5-5 and it's 5 safeties, maybe he does sneak in there. Problem being, Deion Bush is a really good special teams player too. But, Chiefs kept Deion Bush last year on the practice squad the entire season. And, and he played some special teams for them. He did play in the postseason for them, but they didn't need him on the 53. So, would you still be entertaining to doing that with Deion again this year, of having him on the practice squad and maybe having Chris Roland Wallace and protecting him on the 53 and not chance losing him to waivers? Deion is a veteran who doesn't have to go through waivers. If you release him on the cut down to 53, he becomes an immediate free agent and you can just sign him to the practice squad. He can't get claimed by another team. Another team could obviously try to sign him, but he's got free will to go where he wants to. And Deion seems pretty happy in Kansas City, so I would think that there'd be a pretty good chance that you could keep him on the practice squad. But Chris Wallace is definitely a guy that's been pushing. And Mango's asking about another guy that's been pushing, about Spag saying that Keith Taylor is also in the mix. That's the guy that seems to be the late moving up the depth chart for corner. And that corner spot is still just a mess right now because Jalen Watson, I mean, like I said earlier, I expect him to start and play some decent amount of snaps in the first half against Chicago on Thursday, because Chiefs, he hasn't gotten a chance to have any preseason playing time yet. And the Chiefs want to see where he's at. They want him to get their rust knocked off before the beginning of the season, just make sure he's ready to go with that shoulder and speed-wise, strength-wise, that he's all set. So he's going to be the one quote-unquote starter that I think you're going to see a little bit. I'm going to be interested to see with Keith Taylor. And I mean, Kelvin Joseph, I think, is going to play Thursday night. You're not going to see Trent McDuffie. He's a starter. He's not going to play. Certainly looks like you are not going to see Najee Johnson or Josh Williams because of injuries. Josh Williams tweaked his hamstring on Monday, so I doubt that you're going to see him. So now going into this game, Keith Taylor is probably your number 2 corner. What Spags said about Taylor, that would kind of put him above Kelvin Joseph at this point, is that with them grading production, which is being able to get your hands on the football, deflect passes, interceptions in practice and in training camp games and preseason games, that kind of metric, that Keith Taylor has outperformed some of the others and outperformed Kelvin Joseph. I think those two are still pretty tight. So Keith Taylor's been the late kind of comer a little bit at that corner spot. But injury-wise, how these guys shake out, it's going to be really, really tough. I don't know how they're going to sort it out for sure. It's going to be weird. I mean, I still think that you've got a bubble there behind Trent McDuffie where, it's Watson, it's Johnson, and Williams, 2, 3, and 4 in some order. And that could change week to week, depending on who the competition is, what the matchups are. I mean, I can see you shuffling those guys. Injuries may play a part of that too. Then you're talking about your 5 and 6 corners. Is it Taylor and then Joseph? Right now, probably. So, and are you going to keep 6 corners, or are you going to keep 5? I don't know. I mean, these are some things that will get decided on Thursday night, and maybe you'll even go into next week and those Monday and Tuesday practices, the final decisions. And that's another reason why the Chiefs will probably be making some of these decisions super late, because they're just wanting to be able to get all the information they can on these guys before they make their final move. So we'll see. I sound like Andy Reid. I mean, I think Andy Reid said, "We'll see." I think I counted 5 "we'll sees" the other day in his presser. So that's an Andy Reid ism right there. So I'll try not to drop any more "we'll sees" on you the rest of the night. But I know if I drop a "we'll see" in front of Nick, he'll laugh at me. So, but Mark, Clyde Edwards-Helaire on IR or NFI, non-football injury possibilities. I asked Andy Reid on Monday about Clyde going to IR, if that was a possibility, and he didn't want to go down that road. I mean, he specifically said that they haven't discussed that yet, haven't gone that direction, and don't want to. He did practice the last 2 days, so that does change the equation a little bit. I do not expect to see Clyde play on Thursday. I mean, and Matt Nagy kind of explained that. I mean, they know Clyde. They don't need to see anything from him in the game on Thursday. So they're going to, make sure he's healthy, try and keep him feeling good. He has been the last couple of days, so they want to try and keep that and see how it goes into next week. The trick is that, non-football injury and physically unable to perform really aren't options. I mean, those are both options that you can place a player on when they start training camp. But once you practice in training camp, those things come off the table. So really all you're left with is injured reserve. And I mean, NFL injured reserve, the NFL has not really come up with a good solution for, I think, players that are in Clyde's category. And it was even a conversation that was brought up today at practice, which was, what's the harm of, putting a player on injured reserve? Why would a player be, object to that? And I mean, hey, there is a machismo in this league and in this game that I'm sure there are some players who would not want to be placed on injured reserve for a mental condition, for PTSD or anything else. I mean, I'm sure that there's a lot of people in this league that would still see it as a sign of weakness. That's wrong. I mean, and I think that's something that the NFL needs to look at as far as coming up with a reserve list for issues like this, because I think they need to protect the mental health of their players better than they have been. And there's really not a good option for managing a player's mental health right now. So we'll see what they end up doing. I mean, I think that, all evidence is that the Chiefs would like to have him on the 53. I've seen no evidence to the contrary. Could the Chiefs sneak a Deneric Prince or a Carson Steele onto the practice squad and still keep 3 running backs? Possibly, but there's no guarantee you might lose one of those guys. Clyde is a veteran; he doesn't have to go through waivers. Is that the right thing to do with a guy that you've stuck with and everything? I mean, your mileage may vary on that one. I mean, I know that's been thrown out that I've heard the last couple of days, which is just that, that doesn't send the right message with Clyde to do that to him with the things that he's gone through. And you've been in there with him and been trying to be supportive of Clyde. So I don't know. It's a tough one. We'll find out. We'll find out how they're going to manage it, but I think it's going to be a tough decision. And part of it's because, I think everybody's played well. I mean, Clyde has had just the limited touches in that first game against Jacksonville, and it wasn't a standout performance, but he's been good in camp. He had a great catch on in practice on Tuesday. So, I mean, the Chiefs know what Clyde can do, and they brought him back for a reason. They like him. They think that he can help them win, and he's helped them win in the past. So, Cody, so with the 2-for-1 special penalty drive, is the Toney experiment done? Not necessarily, but I haven't talked to anybody in the last 48 hours that feels good about Kadarius Toney's spot on this roster. It's just really difficult to make a case for it. When you look at the snaps, when you look at the practice work, when you look at the performance, none of it really adds up. I mean, it would be, I think, a very difficult case to place Kadarius Toney on the 53. Now, does that mean that the Chiefs have given up on him? Nobody's come out and said that yet. And as I've said all along, I mean, one of the reasons why 6 months ago I expected Kadarius Toney to be on this roster is that the Chiefs were standing by him. Now, no one has come out flat out now and just said, no, the experiment's over, but they still think, obviously, there's a ton of talent there. But things have, I mean, at some point you do have to look at the performance and the results and reconcile it. And I get it. I mean, it's very difficult because here's a guy who's made plays that have helped you win some big games. I mean, someone joked today or yesterday in practice on the sidelines that, he's the offensive equivalent of Frank Clark, that he makes big plays in the postseason. So, maybe you just need him for that alone. I don't know. I haven't gotten a feeling for what they're going to do. We'll, the next obviously 3 or 4 days are going to be pretty critical. We'll see what happens on Thursday. I think it's a very difficult case to make to keep Kadarius on this 53. But what's the discussion going on at 1 Arrowhead Drive as far as that is probably very different from the conversation that we're all having about Kadarius Toney, because they have felt differently about him all along. They've always felt like that the talent is there and they believe that they can tap into it. It hasn't happened consistently yet. And that's been the two big things, obviously, with Kadarius Toney. It's been consistency and availability. If you can't deliver at least one of those things, it makes it very difficult to put you on an NFL roster. And that's why I think it's going to be tough to see what they do. So, Mango, availability-wise, would you rather keep CEH or cut him and re-sign Jerick McKinnon? Here's the thing, Mango. I don't know where Jerick's at physically and mentally. I think last year, I think took a lot out of him. I'm kind of curious about what his plan is, what he would like to do this year. I mean, if it is still something that he wants to continue playing, or if he wants to try and come in mid-season. I have not gotten a good feel or heard what his wishes are. I mean, I feel like if the Chiefs wanted him here and Jerick wanted to be here, he'd be here by now. And Jerick, I mean, let's face it. I mean, he's up there. I mean, it's absolutely. I mean, just time. I mean, it has to be getting more difficult for him as the years go by. So I don't know. I think right now, I think I would stick with Clyde and see what happens. But we'll see what happens. I did. There you go. I went and did Andy Reid again. I said, we'll see. What are you going to do with me? Okay, Mango, I have to get all your questions out before Nick gets here because you've hit your limit. But what is the likelihood of bringing in a veteran corner after Spag said that they don't have another starting corner after Trent? I mean, they still would like for one of their own guys to jump up and claim it. I don't think that you're going to trade for a starting corner. I mean, that's part of the problem, one right there. If you're going to make a trade for a corner, you're trading for depth. You're trading to give you another option. But I really can't see this team, giving up the resources it would take to truly get a number one or a number two corner. So I don't know. I mean, I think that they could certainly be looking through the waiver wire for corners. I think they would be looking for a possibility of a trade to bring someone in. I think if there was a free agent that they liked, they would already have been here by now. But I don't like their likelihood of being able to get a veteran to come in here that would start for this team. I think your best bet is just to add somebody who would add to the competition and add to your depth, which honestly, I mean, they kind of need right now just because of the injuries alone. They don't have a ton of healthy corners right now. So that's kind of another one of the issues that this team is facing that they need to get over. So, Jesus, so do we have a Super Bowl caliber left tackle? I mean, we're going to find out, Jesus, because Kingsley Suamataia is going to be your left tackle. I mean, we still haven't had, the Chiefs just flat out come out and say it, but let's face it, they'll be saying it with their actions for sure Thursday night when Kingsley Suamataia is not playing and Wanya Morris is. So I think that would at least be the final string, the final line that you would cross before I think that even Andy Reid would have to say that Kingsley is your left tackle. Is he good enough for this team to win the Super Bowl with him? Sure. Yeah. I mean, is he as good as Donovan Smith? I think he's different. I mean, there's probably some things right now he can do better than Donovan Smith. Probably a few things he can do worse. I've really liked his progression. The Chiefs have really liked his progression as far as training camp goes, and just getting better from day to day and week to week. Think he had some really good snaps on Saturday. It's continued to, and most importantly is that you're just not seeing the breakdowns. You're not seeing just complete and total whiffs or anything of that nature. You just terribly bad plays. So no, I mean, can the Chiefs win a Super Bowl with Kingsley Suamadi at left tackle? Yes. So is he a Pro Bowler? Is he an All Pro? Not yet. There's work for him to be done, but the Chiefs are happy with him. I don't think that they've got a problem. I mean, if they had an issue with Kingsley, once again, there are options out there, but they're not there. They don't feel that way. I have not seen any evidence why they should be worried about Kingsley. He is certainly you think his best days are still ahead of him. He's certainly going to be a better tackle down the road than he is as a rookie, but there's a lot to like. And could he be a big deal down the road? Yeah. I mean, I've seen that kind of question coming from Mango down the road there. Is it time to get excited about him? I'll be the one to tell you to probably wait a little bit just to let the kid get into the regular season and don't put too much pressure on him. But there's a lot to like. Let's just put it that way. And there's a lot of things. You can see why the Chiefs fell in love with him, because he does a lot of things that the Chiefs like to do really, really well. I mean, as far as being a guy that can move a lot and get downfield and be an athletic blocker, not maybe just a power guy, but an athletic blocker. He can do that. I mean, I can see him down the road. The one area where I think that's still a work in progress is going to be the screen game, but he's the kind of left tackle I can see down the road being a really effective tackle in the screen game. So, but right now I think he's going to be good against the run. I think he's going to get better against the pass protection. So we'll see what happens. I said it again, darn it. I'm going to try not to say we'll see again the rest of the night. We'll see. Not that there's going to be any consequence to it, but feel free to hold me on that. Severio, I guess the Chiefs really like Jaron Hyatt since they didn't waive him with an injury designation and didn't bring in another body after practicing all camp and not playing any games. I mean, they do like Jaron Hyatt, so yeah. I mean, I think there's a reason why he's still here. Is he a threat for the 53? No. Could he still get, I mean, would it be worth, waiving him with an injury designation and having a red shirt year for him? I mean, that's still a possibility. Would they like, if the injury with that shoulder is not severe enough, get him on the practice squad? That's probably the best case scenario, but I like what Jaron Hyatt has brought to the table. He just needs a little bit more maturing and growing and seasoning. And we've seen the Chiefs do great things in the past with those receivers. So if Nick gets the lotto, does he come back to work next Tuesday at Chiefs Digest? Trust me, if Nick wins the lottery, he has assured me that Chiefs Digest is going to be the most well-funded website on the internet. So he's going to be the next employee. So he's going to be shooting all the video for us. He's going to be the silent partner. Probably not that silent because he'd be all over the place. But yes, do not worry. If Nick winning the lottery would be just great for all of us, because it just means that he would not have to do anything else except do Chiefs. So that would be great for all of us. So root for Nick to win the lottery. That would be great. Let's see. Are they going to? Are they going to sit Kingsley too? This is a lot of loss of a lot of valuable reps. Not really, Pano, because they did let Kingsley get some extended work on Saturday. He played it a lot longer than the other starters did. They kept him out there with the twos for a little bit on that line just to get him more work. And then, Andy Reid made a decent point today, which is that one of the reasons why they're planning on sitting all the starters. And, last year, the first team defense, a lot of them played in last year's game. And I don't think any of them, except for, like I said, Jalen Watson, I don't think anybody else is going to play. Even Justin Reed, that hasn't played in the preseason, and Nick Bolton are not going to play Thursday. They just, because they've gotten a lot of work already in camp. And that was what I thought was really interesting that, Andy Reid said on Monday, was that they track all of the snaps that these players are taking between training camp practices and the preseason games. And the starters and the main group and everything, that they've gotten 50 more snaps and 50 more reps than last year, that the team got in 50 more, just because, Reed pointed to the fact that they didn't have to go indoors, so they didn't lose any snaps, with moving inside and outside. Probably a few other efficiencies here and there too that helped them get there. But I mean, workload wise, I don't think there's any problem. There's nothing. And remember too, I mean, nobody else is starting. So I don't think that there's a whole lot. And depending on what the Bears do, would there be any point in having Kingsley go out there with the number 2 offensive line and go up against the number 2 defense for the Bears? I don't know if he'd get a whole lot out of it. So no, it wouldn't concern me at all. I mean, at this point, with the third preseason game, to me, it is put everybody that you've got in bubble wrap and just get to week 1. What you need to do at this point is evaluate the guys that you don't know anything about and don't know enough about. And that's the younger guys and the more inexperienced guys who need the work. So let them get the snaps in, let them get the reps in, and don't worry about Kingsley. He'll be fine. I'm not too worried about that. I know, Luttrell. I mean, Nick's in the comments doing great work. He is. Yes, doing the crowd work. I love it. I don't know, Brenda. I don't know that if Nick has a burner account. I think it's just his own account. But I mean, I do know of one burner account that he has, but I have never seen it here on YouTube. So, David, does Fabian Lovett make the 53? I mean, I don't think that he does. Could it still happen? Yes. I mean, I could absolutely make a case for Fabian Lovett making the 53. I like him. I think there's a lot to like there. I think the Chiefs are really, I think they're hiding him. I think they have. I think they've been trying to make sure that he flies under the radar and that they can sneak him onto the practice squad, because I do think he needs a little bit more time, a little bit more seasoning. And the Chiefs, I mean, at tackle, they do have some depth. Is it extensive depth? Maybe not. But, I think they feel like that they're okay there for now. What they plan to do with Fabian going forward and Lovett going forward is interesting. Nick's had some interesting observations about how that they have used him, and I'll try and bring it up with him when he gets in here if he wants to talk about that. But I think that part of it is just that he does need some more work. So I think they would like to try and sneak him onto the practice squad. They really seem to have been trying to kind of hide him a little bit. So I don't know that he's going to make the 53, but I think they want to definitely get him on the practice squad if they can. Gabo, if someone doesn't play a standout game versus Chicago to take the spot of cornerback 2, do you think the Chiefs really going to search in free agency? By the way, the podcast, one of the greatest discoveries of the offseason. Well, that is a super kind of you to say. I appreciate that greatly. And I'll go back to what I said earlier, which is that I think that they would be looking for some cornerback depth, but I don't think it would probably be, I mean, it could be in free agency. I still think that if it's a free agent, that player, if the Chiefs felt that they needed the help, would already be here. I think they would be looking at other rosters, and I think they should be looking for depth. I think they would just be looking for somebody that could come in here and compete and give them some depth because of the injury issues that they do have. I don't think there's any doubt, even though Steve Spagnuolo made sure to point out that he didn't think it was annoying, but he did find it frustrating, the injuries and everything that's really kept them from being able to have their full secondary out there. Because let's face it, they have an incomplete on just about everybody. Oh, and Nick is calling me because I forgot to send him the invite. So he's ready to come in. And I forgot to send him the invitation. I have you on the stream now because I didn't send you the invitation. I am sending it to you. All right, that was a highlight of how the sausage gets made sometime. Thanks, everybody. Yes, that's me. I'm incompetent sometimes. But good thing is Nick's ready to come in, so he'll be coming in here shortly. So appreciate that. Sorry, I can only figure what the comments are right now. I'm gonna jump down there too and see what's going on. Did Nick win the lottery already? I don't think so. Not yet, Brenda, but he's working on it. So, but yeah, I think that the Chiefs are definitely, they're trying to work out some things there at the cornerback spot and figure out what they have. But like I said, it's an incomplete on Najee Johnson and it's an incomplete on Jalen Watson. And if one of those two guys is able to get fully healthy in the next month and secure that spot, great. If they need to bring somebody else in is just insurance because of the injuries that they've had there and the inconsistencies, I mean, they're going to have to do that too. I just think it's kind of surprising that they're in this spot because I was really bullish. I mean, I really was. And I'll wait for Nick's thumbs up before I bring him in as always, but Nick is in the green room. At least we got that going for us. But I thought they would be in a better spot at this point. And maybe it is really just the availability. Maybe it is the injuries that have held this group back. I think that there were, questions about, hey, was this going to be the year that Joshua Williams took the jump? And so far we haven't seen that. Maybe it'll still come. We haven't seen it yet. But availability and injuries have really been the reason why we haven't been able to get a real grade on Jalen Watson and Najee Johnson. Maybe one of those two will nail this down. Maybe Jalen Watson's going to go out and play 15 snaps and make you feel a lot better about that position, and you're going to feel pretty good. I don't know. Maybe you'll get into the season and these guys will look better than they've looked in training camp, and one of them will secure the position and make you feel better. I'm just kind of surprised because I know there's talent there. These three guys in particular have talent. Dave Merritt has shown a consistency to be able to continue to get talent out of guys. So I'm just really surprised that it hasn't clicked for one of these players yet. I fully expected one of them to come out and burst out. Now once again, has it just been the injuries that have been preventing maybe a couple of them from getting to that point? Maybe so, but there's also it's worth also discussing probably at some point that the flyers on some other players haven't been hitting. Nick Jones was a draft pick last year. It doesn't look like he's taking a step forward this year. Echo Boydo was an undrafted free agent, played really well last year in spots. Has he taken the leap? We haven't really seen that. Kamal Hadden, the draft pick this year, hasn't really clicked yet. So, it doesn't mean that every player you're going to bring in is going to be a success, but this team, for the most part, seems like it has had a lot of good luck at a good run at finding talent at the cornerback position. I'm just surprised that with good scouting and good coaching that they haven't found the right guy to step up and replace LJ yet. And that's a tough job. And maybe the Chiefs are guilty of this too. Maybe just grading on a massive curve, because if you're trying to find a guy that plays as well as L'Jarius Sneed played the last couple of years, you might be looking for a while. So, Micah, do you think the team will have any interest in signing Randy Gregory? Do you think they should? The Chiefs are always going to be a team that's going to kick the tires on somebody. I feel like that Gregory would probably fit into the category of just too many red flags or concerns. Because how old is he now? He's 32. That's a huge red flag for the Chiefs. I mean, not that he's going to be 31. He's going to be 32 this season. Not necessarily they've brought in older guys before, but I'll also say that, the guys that they brought in before, had better track records than Randy Gregory's had. So I think that, hey, if you want to bring in somebody that you're not going to have to worry about, then, this guy, hey, off the field issues have been a problem in the past. So sometimes, you do want to be concerned about the character issues and the chemistry issues of the team. But then also consider the fact guys played 6 games or 11 games over the last 2 seasons. I mean, availability, huge problem, and not getting any younger. So I don't know. I mean, that wouldn't be the direction that I would go for a lot of reasons. I think that the age, I think the injuries have all probably caught up with him. Performance over the last couple of seasons hasn't been anything that would make you want to just jump out there and go grab him. So wouldn't be my first choice, but maybe Nick would feel differently. I don't know.
Way to get that in there, Matt. Good job.
How are you tonight?
I'm good, man. I love that people didn't believe it was me in the comment section when I was on there earlier. You probably haven't seen half the comments I put in there.
I did see the comments.
Wild in there, Matt.
I didn't see anything that you have posted after 7:19 because, again, my multitasking skills, scanning forward and coming back to where I was.
Hey, you want to know what I got? I got that. I got a Super King at store.
I have needed the Super King in the past.
I didn't know that was a thing, but there I was at a gas station working on my financial future, and that thing, my 401k plan, and there it was.
I've never asked you this before. Do you have your own numbers that you play each week, or do you just get?
That's why it was taking me so long to fill out. So I use a chart for part of it. I use the Royals roster for one of them. Use the Chiefs roster of my favorite Chiefs players. Another one of current Chiefs. Then I have one for each Super Bowl team.
Ooh, there you go.
But I'm not going to tell you the numbers because then you'll use them, and then my financial future is ruined. Even though Severio Acapeni already tried to say earlier that it was. Speaking of, hey, if he's still on here, do you want to tell Severio about the number 0?
Severio, if you are in the number 0, because yes, I would be glad to tell you.
Severio's passion question.
So this is just for you because, other people have asked too, but you're the most recent one. So for you, yes, I used my very, very valuable moment with Andy Reid to ask him if he was ever going to have a player wear the number 0. And his answer is going to surprise you because he said, I don't think so. But the reason why he said, I don't think so is what's really going to surprise you. He said, I don't think Clark's a fan. So not Andy Reid necessarily. That's the reason why the Chiefs haven't had anybody wear number 0 yet. But Clark's a traditionalist. So, and that goes to all things. So, I mean, I don't blame Clark. I mean, because frankly, hey, I love Brian Cook. Not real crazy about seeing a safety wearing 6. I mean, that's not my jam, Nick. I mean, I'm an old school guy. So, I thought it was really, what didn't Mike Pennell say a couple of weeks ago when he was asked why he was wearing 69 because he won't wear a number in the 90s?
Yeah, no, he said he wasn't about that.
He wasn't about that. But to me, 90s, man, that's a defensive lineman number. So, there's just some things that are, linebackers. I mean, you should wear in the 40s or the 50s. That's what you should be wearing as a linebacker. But if you're a safety, supposed to be in the 20s, 30s, maybe in the 40s, those are fine. Anywhere from 20 to 49, fine. Safety, very great. I can't really get behind 0 either, Nick. So I can't blame Clark. But there is your answer. So will the Chiefs ever have somebody wear 0? Probably not.
Not anytime soon, it sounds like.
Not anytime soon. Although, Mark Donovan has told us that that Clark seems to get weaker and weaker every year when Nike brings them new uniforms and new options and color schemes. So maybe one day the dam will break, Nick. Maybe one day you'll get a Chiefs alternate jersey and somebody was going to wear 0.
It's why you don't say never. You just say
never. Say never. Well, do you have any thoughts on whether the Chiefs should have signed Randy Gregory?
I don't think at his age and also where he's at in run defense, he really fits what they're after.
Justin's not the only burner account anymore, Nick.
Oh yeah, people kept claiming that I was the burner account was me. I get it, dude, because I get it. I totally understand, and that's why they're a part of our podcast, whatever you call it. I don't know what we call it, Podcast Nation. I don't know, because as Herbie once told us a long time ago, the number one rule of journalism: if your mother tells you she loves you, get a second source.
This is true.
Every single person there was wanting a second source on that. So I don't know because since I was on the comment section, if I would technically still be the first source or me appearing is the second source.
I guess I could be a second source, but I only know of one burner account that you have, and I don't know that you have any on YouTube.
I put it in the comment section, but it's not a burner account. It's just when we need questions.
It's an alter ego.
It's not an alter ego either. It literally is just a really big fan of Sunday Sound Off and asking Sunday Sound Off questions when we don't get enough.
Oh,
So
well,
I
this
don't
is good.
consider that a burner account. A burner account is somebody that like causes causes mischief. Is trolling.
Causes mischief. See, I don't even necessarily think that it has to cause mischief because I mean, I'm certain that there's a few people who have burner accounts out there because they just don't want their identities known. That's
but
what
I don't really consider that a burner account though. Like I consider a burner account you're out there causing some trouble.
See, you can't, not all burner accounts cause trouble.
I don't know, man.
And not all troublemakers have burner accounts. It's kind of like khakis.
Disagree with both.
Well, let's see if we can disagree with this one then. AWDT, which rookie do you think will have the most impact this year? And we might even have to go for two rookies because we might have the same answer.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to go first, go ahead.
No, you're up.
All right, fine. I mean, look, Jaden Hicks is gonna have a good year. Jared Wiley, like we've talked about many times before, is probably gonna take to like week 8 to really get into a groove. And I mean, you're hoping Kingsley has a great year because then that means that Mahomes is feeling very comfortable, and then you're hoping Worthy's going to have a big impact on the offense. So I mean, in a way, you're hoping all of them have an impact this year, and in some ways, most of them probably will.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I feel like if Kingsley Suamadi is not the rookie that has the most impact this year, then some things have gone poorly for the Chiefs because one, I think he's probably hurt, and that's not anything that the Chiefs need to happen. Right. That's the guy who should, because he's going to be the starting left tackle. I mean, let's face it. Even though Andy Reid still won't tell us that he's the left tackle, he's the starting left tackle because he's not going to be playing on Thursday. But after that, yeah, I mean, Xavier Worthy should absolutely be the one that has the second biggest impact. I mean, like I said, it's not going to be sexy, but you need Kingsley Suamadi to play well if you're going to win a Super Bowl this year. But Worthy, I mean, I think there's no doubt is next in line because he's going to be essentially a starter. I don't know that he's going to necessarily start, but he's going to get starter-like snaps. How much work he gets, I think, will be interesting to see. I mean, I'm not expecting him to play 70% of the snaps, but he's going to play an important role in this team. He's going to get the ball a lot. So, and everybody else, yeah. I mean, I think Jaden Hicks is going to play a role. I mean, Jared Wiley should absolutely be making contributions this year. I mean, I don't know that. I mean, once again, 100 yards is probably going to make a contribution this year if there are injuries. Probably C.J. Hansen too. And Kamal Haddon, practice squad. That's a useful spot for him. But your mileage may vary, Nick. Who knows?
It might. I don't know.
Oh, Jimmy saw me presenting the trophy to Spags. Can you talk about how that came about? And this is your first time playing Jim Nance. Oh, I was going to Jim Nance today. Gosh, I wish if I had thought about that, Jimmy's. Oh man, I would have gone full Butler Cabin on that one and everything. But this was my first time playing Jim Nance. How it came about, the Pro Football Writers of America each year give out the Dr. Z Awards named for Paul Zimmerman, who was a longtime columnist for Sports Illustrated back in the heyday of Sports Illustrated, but longtime football writer. Pro Football Writers Association about 10 years ago created this Lifetime Achievement Award named in his honor. For the Dr. Z Award, Paul Zimmerman Award, that's given for a lifetime achievement as an assistant coach in the NFL. And obviously, there's already been a lot of great coaches. I mentioned in the presentation. I guess Nick has it. I forgot. I didn't know if you had it available, Nick. But
yeah. Here, let me go find. I totally forgot. Yeah,
I don't want to. If we were going to play it, I didn't want to repeat anything that was in it. No, not bad at all. But yours truly is. I mean, not to make a big deal. I am the president of the Kansas City chapter currently of the Pro Football Writers of America. So I had the honor of giving Spags his award today. So we'll play this real quick that Nick put together for us here.
Matt, want to go ahead?
Sure.
No.
For those of you who do not know, every year the Pro Football Writers of America present the Paul Zimmerman Dr. Z Award to a Lifetime Achievement Award for an assistant coach. And there have been 25 of these named by the PFWA, Steve. And 5 of them have been Chiefs coaches, so you were in a pretty
That's
good company
I guess.
here.
Yeah.
Emmett Thomas is on that list, Romeo Crennel, Howard Mudd, Gunther Cunningham, and you're the only one that has won it while you were with the Chiefs. So, you were a distinct,
So I get to get this, right? You guys get to do
so
it.
you're in a distinct company here. Very proud to present you on behalf of the Pro Football Writers of America with the
That's
Paul
awesome.
Dr. Z Award.
Totally unexpected. When I remember I got the letter, and I said, well, this is good. I'll have a letter. I ought to maybe frame it or something, but I don't have to do that now. So. Listen, just 2 things. One, I thank the people in here. This doesn't happen unless somebody locally, says something. So thank you for that. And then I think I mentioned this before up at training camp. You don't get you don't get an individual award in a team sport unless you're around other good people. I'm not going to go through a whole list, but I will say this. If not for Andy Reid, there's no way this happens. A, he brought me into the league, and B, he brought me here to Kansas City. So I will say thank you to Andy, and I appreciate you guys, too, for just make sure I don't drop it and break it. But now I can tell, I had the thought of framing the letter. Now I don't have to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Yep, thank you.
So that was a lot of fun today. We got to present Steve with that award, and I think he genuinely appreciated it. I know that he was pretty excited about it. So, and he obviously addressed it earlier during training camp about getting the award. I enjoyed the part about how he was going to have the letter framed until he found out there was a trophy that came along with it. So,
Yeah.
And I want to share it with you, Nick, because Nick fact checked me because we're trying to make sure that
let's not. No, you reached out to me while I was grocery shopping today.
So Nick helped fact check me to make sure that I had all of the correct number of Chiefs past winners on the list, and then pointed out that Steve was the only one that was actually with the Chiefs when he won it. Everybody else had either moved on or retired when they received their awards. So thank you, Nick.
I was just a second source to confirm your belief. That's all it was.
Also want to know, because I passed it along to the PFWA, that list, and one of the emails that I had forwarded to was to the company, the guy who makes the awards for the PFWA, and so I sent that video clip to him and to the writer that organized the award, Bob Glauber, and the guy whose company creates the awards and makes them and everything like that just emailed me to say that he really appreciated the video, because he said that they've made them for years, but they had never gotten to see one of the presentations before. So
Wow.
He thought that was very, very cool. So
Nice.
Thank you for sharing that.
Hey, no problem. And I think it was Mick out there shooting it today. It's technically I'm off.
It was Mick, yes. And Mick almost left a battery behind, but I saved him. So
didn't need to put that one out publicly, but there we did.
That was just me patting myself on the back.
Oh boy, we're gonna get ready to lightning round here soon. It's already 8:06. Where we at?
I know, and I'm at 7:22. So I was not moving with alacrity without you, Nick. So, Mike, Broncos and Chargers are rumored to be looking for wide receiver help. If cut, does Toney sign with one of them? Who knows, Nick?
Good, let him.
Harsh.
He can go be offsides for them and drop passes and give half effort and be out half the year. And people be like, oh, he's gonna tell them all the playbook and everything. And I don't think that's gonna. I don't anticipate that factor in as much as you think it would. So
I think you're probably right. So I'm
not trying to be mean. I'm just being honest with what I've observed for 2.5 years here now.
Very, very astute.
At this point. There might not even be a half at this point.
Luttrell does think that Toney would be great on the Broncos. So there you go. Bobby, how does Worthy stock up against Tank Dell? Higher or lower ceiling?
I don't remember Tank Dell right now. I know we watched him, but I mean, I'm not comparing the two personally. I'm
trying to remember when Dell was taken. I'm just kind of comparing it from a draft stock standpoint and everything.
I think it was the Texans.
He was a third rounder.
Yeah,
he was a third rounder. I mean, it's good gold mine. I mean, if you're just talking about like a first year comparison, I mean, hey, don't get me wrong. I mean, you would absolutely take that if Worthy had 709 yards and 7 touchdowns this season, Nick. I mean, I would tell you to take that to the bank. I mean, that's a good first year, especially for a rookie under Andy Reid. Last year's Rashee Rice numbers were crazy. I've said that I think a really good, standard comparison for Xavier Worthy this year is the rookie year for Tyreek Hill, and Tyreek's numbers were lower than that. So, but every receiver is different. Every receiver develops differently. Every receiver is in a different situation. So it's hard to say. I mean, if you told me that Xavier Worthy had 1,000 yards and you told me he had 400, neither one would shock me. I mean, you don't know what's going to happen, but I mean, based on draft stock, I mean, you'd say Worthy should be a better player. Doesn't guarantee anything. It's a different situation. You just don't know.
So I looked at my scouting write-up that I did, a report on him.
There you go.
And I went by his legal name, Nathaniel Dell, not Tank Dell. That's why I wasn't ringing a bell. I knew he was with the Texans, but I didn't remember until I had this legal name on here. Look, what I have on here is he's got good vertical speed and he's able to separate as long as he continues on a straight line path. And then I said that he tracks the ball well and he had some impressive over the shoulder catches. And he was a good open field returner as long as he continued to push vertically. When he'd go laterally, he started to lose steam. And then I had whenever he has to change direction on routes or crossers, he seems to lose steam. He needs to be going north. He needs to be going north or south on routes and not have to adjust too much accordingly. So in terms of what that would compare with Worthy from college tape, Worthy tracks the ball really well, and Worthy doesn't lose speed by adjusting. He actually maintains or gets a little faster, and he can speed up a little bit to get to the football. So I think Worthy's probably well, I mean, based on draft selection alone, the NFL thinks that he's a better prospect in terms of speed than what Dell was with where he got drafted.
There you go. Straight from the scouting report itself.
Nathaniel Dell.
There you go. Micah, any new rumors on details of a new Missouri stadium proposal? That might be news to me, Nick. Have you heard anything about the rumors about a Chiefs stadium proposal in Missouri? I've heard about rumors about a Royal Stadium, but I can't say that I've heard one about the Chiefs. So maybe I'm out of the loop.
Well, I mean, they're not really specifying Chiefs. They're just saying new stadium proposal.
A new stadium.
New Missouri stadium.
Yes.
So
well, I mean,
not University of Missouri. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to a Royal Stadium. I talk about a Royal Stadium here. I just figured it would be more just Chiefs focused, but I haven't heard anything specifically about a Chiefs stadium, just the Royal Stadium. Nick, I mean, I don't know about, like I said, I don't know if you've heard differently.
Until the sports betting thing gets situated, I don't think you'll find out a lot of any rumors until you potentially need that to remind people why they should vote yes. So you know exactly what I'm saying too. Like you want to create excitement, but you don't want to create it too early. So if there is any vision of where you'd put that and what you do, the smart money is you don't do that until right around Halloween or right before Halloween.
There you go.
Am I wrong, Matt?
You're not wrong. So and also, I mean, let's face it, the Royals are going to be cheaper and easier, I think, for Missouri to keep. So
maybe not.
We'll see what happens. CD, I worry about Nick Bolton. Do you think he is injury prone? I mean, I think he's had bad luck, Nick, but what's your take?
I mean, we'll see how things go during the season, because I think twice it's been elbow twice now, and then was it ankle once last year because he had an ankle injury. I think he had the elbow injury last year, and then now this year he's had the elbow.
Yeah,
injury.
It was really more wrist last year than elbow.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Well,
I mean,
it would have been good if it had been elbow twice. So
and this year he got his elbow sandwiched between two helmets, so that's just bad luck.
That'll do it.
I mean, that'll do it, and that's just bad luck. So, yeah, I'm not ready to prop that up one to injury prone yet, because I think he's just had some bad luck. I don't think there's really been a rich injury history. He's played through some things too, so I think you got to give him a little bit of credit for that. So, and sometimes just guys have bad luck. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, there's always going to be guys that I'm worried about for being an injury prone from a standpoint because of just their frame or their size or whatever. mean, Bolton's not one of those guys. I mean, he's a decently sized, built together dude. So I don't think he's frail or fragile by any stretch of the imagination. But do sometimes guys have bad luck? Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's no other way to describe some of the injuries that people go through. Since Zulu said to give these guys a big thumbs up, I'm just going to stop to say, give us a big thumbs up. So.
Well, thank you. Yes, and what he is meaning there for anybody watching, whether it's on YouTube, we could use the thumbs up there because that's the more thumbs up we get, the more it ends up in the front homepage of searches for people that are routinely looking for Chiefs. 5-star reviews on Apple for the podcast also helps more people find it and raises its stock, as you would say, in terms of when people are searching Chiefs podcast, then that pops up. Or you can just retweet it on Twitter, or you can share it on your Facebook or LinkedIn or wherever you want. You say, hey, you should listen to this and have a link of it. Then that only helps more people find this, and it only helps us squash more inaccurate takes and bogus rumors. See, like, oh, Matt, rant of the night. You ready for it? Ding, ding, ding.
Yes, absolutely.
Rant of the night. Well, yeah. What's up, man?
I was going to tell, before you did the rant, I was going to tell people, you can also hit the bell so you make sure that you get notified every time that we do the live stream or have the podcast go up. So,
okay. So ring that bell. Rant of the night. Every time somebody either calls me, texts me, or asks on Twitter, they're like, hey, I heard a rumor that, for example, the popular one this week was apparently about McCole Hardman not being on the depth chart. I don't know where that was at, but I kept getting that, and I'm like, okay, he was on the field Saturday, so I don't think the depth chart matters, and I'm not really worried about a depth chart. They're like, well, and I know some people, I had a couple of people that are like, well, do you think he get cut? And I was like, no, why would he get cut? He's Worthy's insurance policy from a speed perspective, and he can help with part of Hollywood Brown's roles as well if he needs to. So why would that happen? But because a random account put it out there, it now became a rumor, even though that's not how rumors actually are. And people are like, well, I heard. No, you saw a tweet where somebody threw something against the wall and just hope for the best. So let's stop using the word rumor recklessly. This is why you come to 41 as the mic and the Chiefs Digest Q&A, because we don't have time for nonsense. Okay. Really don't.
I mean, I would probably do great numbers, Nick, for me if I'd started to do like I don't know, the Chiefs Fact or something. I started doing fact checking over at Chiefs Digest, and you could just go and click and see if the rumor or the meme of the week or the something created by AI or anything that Grok, whatever that freak Grok is over on X, decides to create.
My favorite thing will be that Steve Spagnuolo interview that I put on Twitter with the 41 logo in the bottom right-hand corner. Either A, it's going to get cropped out and we're going to see it at like 5 other spots, or B, somebody else is going to be bold enough to put their own logo on top of it as if they were actually there. Which happens in the community more than it should. And not even...
It should never happen, but
it shouldn't, because there are copyright issues. But tomato, it's the wild, wild west out here.
Yes. Now I'm trying to find this because you were getting ready to set me off on one, Nick, and I could probably even just go and find one. You inspired a rant in me.
All right, Matt. Well, you find your rant, but if you want to go to the next question and pop up that Chiefs practice video, I will answer it while you search for that one. Hey, look, there's Chiefs video from yesterday.
There
the
is.
Nelson shot. Do you two think Prince will make the roster? I'm 50-50 on that one, while Matt still finds what's going to set him off on his rant here. So for me, I think Prince has the athletic ability. I think he's come a long way. I really do believe that he has improved in all the areas that he needed to. Oh, hey, there he is right there. I feel like he has improved in his pass protection. I think he's got better vision this year. When he does bounce it outside, he's more explosive than he was last year. He does stay up and has better contact balance whenever he does take a hit, or he runs through some guys at times. Not Carson Steele level, because Carson Steele is just a whole different ball game with lower body strength. But all that combined, I I wouldn't be stunned if Prince is on the roster, and I wouldn't be stunned if he potentially went to practice squad. But what I will tell you, no matter who the running backs are on the roster, if I'm in the Chiefs' shoes, I am still looking to see if there's an upgrade that can be behind Pacheco no matter what. And that doesn't mean Carson Steele comes off the roster. I keep Carson Steele on the roster no matter what because of how he is as a power run back. Matt, have you found it yet?
I haven't, because I think I deleted it because I was getting ready to do a rant on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
And then I thought better of it. And then I may have just deleted the screenshot that I was going to tweet just so that I wasn't tempted to do it again later. But I can, okay, because once again, I mean,
this sounds all like you.
we're getting overrun by robots now, Nick. I mean, we've got
robots. We got Terminator going on.
Basically, Skynet is trying to take over our jobs. So, I mean, and like I said, I should just go over right now and see what the craziness is going on. Now, if I get, you have to, if you do it on their phone, it's so much easier. I'm like an old man here. But let's see if there's anything good on here now. Because Twitter's AI is awful. I mean, I know this is going to, be a problem. I'll probably get now banned on Twitter or something. But no, I mean, like the other day, it was something about how it was an AI written thing about, I think, linebacker Hollywood Brown. And it was like, what in the world? And it's like, tries to aggregate about 18 different things and then combines it into one. Okay. There was another headline in Fun Mode, which I don't know what Fun Mode is, Nick, but Fun Mode was X telling me that the Chiefs hope that Hollywood Brown is back in time to watch Week 1. I mean, it's like they're trying, I guess, to write onion headlines, but they're not actually funny either. So I don't know what they're trying to be, but I know that there are certainly some of those things that are creeping through that are becoming, part of the lexicon now that people are getting. And it's just like, no. Don't do this to us. Eventually, Nick, you and I are going to be replaced by AI, and
I'll never be replaced by AI.
We're going to be replaced by Skynet. Yes, they're going to send a Roomba out to shoot video at Chiefs practice, and it's just going to shoot pictures of the trees because it's going to get confused and everything. And that's my rant. So,
hey, look, it's Justin Ross.
There you go.
All right, Matt. Next question.
Next,
we got to start lightning round.
We do have to start lightning round.
Yeah.
What is the criteria for those who don't make the 53 to going on waiver list versus being free agents? You want to start with that one, Nick? Or?
Sure. Okay, so if you're 4 years or under, you have to go through waivers. And so if you don't have 4 years, of service, you got to go on waivers. You can be waiver claimed. So anybody that's a rookie, first year, second year, third year guy, they're going to have to go through waivers. No matter what NFL team they're on, if they're a draft pick or not, they're going to have to go through waivers. So if you're a 4-year vested veteran or more, then you automatically become a free agent. So whenever you talk about the Irv Smiths of the world or the Clyde Edwards-Helaires of the world, those would be people that immediately become free agents and they can go wherever they want. They're not at the mercy of anybody else. Yeah. So like somebody hypothetically, let's take Rees-Zammit. If Luis is put on waivers, a team could potentially claim him, and then the time the Chiefs invested in him, it ends and he goes to whatever team, but that team is claiming him for their 53. So they would have to put him on their 53, and however long he stays on their 53, who knows? But that is a possibility for each guy that you waive. Matt, did I nail it?
You did. Yep. Nailed it completely. The NFL did make a change this year. You probably have experienced in the past, which is that players who are going on injured reserve, if you place them on injured reserve on Tuesday on the cut down day, they don't have to be on your 53-player roster. They can just go straight to injured reserve. You've probably remembered that there have been some times in the past where the Chiefs have kept an injured player on the 53-player roster and released a veteran that they then the next day place that player on IR and then sign the veteran back. You don't have to do those shenanigans anymore. So that certainly makes things a little bit easier. Should certainly help a few players, especially some veterans, because there's also some squirreliness that, if you're a veteran of a, trying to remember, I can't remember if it's 4 years for that, Nick, or if it's higher years. But if you are on the week 1 roster and you are a vested veteran, that your salary for the upcoming season becomes guaranteed.
I believe you can only do that 1 year. I can't remember if it's when they're released. They can only do it for 1 year. They can only exercise it 1 year.
I do not recall for sure.
But I know there's a stipulation, hypothetically. Say somebody is on... I know there's 1 year that if you do get released, you can only exercise it once, because I know a player that told me he had to do it. So there was 1 year that they were able to do it, even though they got released at one point. But yeah, no, for the most part, yeah, I know for most guys, depending on if they've exercised it or not, you want to be on that first week to lock in that salary for the year.
Yeah, and it doesn't happen very often, but there are some times when teams do it. So it's been a while since the Chiefs have done it. They have done it in the past, but it's been a few years since they did it. So, but it can happen. I mean, and you got a couple of decisions to make. Sometimes that can lead into it. So, Gabo, how many linebackers do you think they're going to keep? 5 or 6? Because I'm not even going to say that. And for special teams usage, I tried to lead Steve Spagnuolo there today, Nick, about whether he wanted to keep 5 or 6 linebackers. He really wasn't having it, but I didn't get the vibe from him that he was keeping 6 linebackers. Nick, I don't know about you.
Maybe that's a vibe he wanted you to get, Matt.
There you go. Maybe he was leading me in the wrong direction.
Yeah, maybe he's doing the okie doke to you and everybody else in the league that's listening in on this conversation, because they heard about the award he was going to be presented today, or they heard about it after the fact, and they're like, "Well, let me just go back and see his press conference anyways." And they're like, they came to the same conclusion as you, and they're like, I don't think he's going to do it. I think that Curtis Jacobs guy could be ours. So you never know.
And yeah, I mean, that would be the question to me. I mean, I think that there are 5 solid linebackers. I know that there's not a universal 100% agreement that Cam Jones is on the 53. I think he's on the 53. I think the question is, if a Curtis Jacobs or a Swayze Bozeman cracks the 53 as a 6th linebacker. I mean, and that's assuming that Jack Cochran is 100%. As we're looking at Alex Smith. Almost looks like he has 41 logo on his shirt, Nick.
Yeah, almost. But yeah, he was there that day for ESPN. The day before, he did Sirius Radio XM. But that day was an ESPN day, because this was last Wednesday, the final true day that I got to shoot 25 minutes of magic.
There you go. This might be one answer that I get short on, Nick, and that's nothing personal, Steve. Who might be a good defensive tackle from another team that might be available at cut downs? I have had no time to look at other teams' rosters over the last 4 or 5 weeks, so I unfortunately could not even begin to tell you who might be available during cut downs. It might be available on the waiver wire. Your mileage may vary, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily think they need a defensive tackle, because I think they're happy with what they've got among the rotation of Mike Pennell and Chris Jones as your starters. Then probably Derek Nottie working in behind Pennell at the 1, and then Wharton working at the 3. And then we'll see if they keep a 5th and Neil Farrell. I mean, that's one that's a possibility. And, Fabian Lovett, we'll see what they elect to do with him. Imagine he'll probably be on practice squad after the answer Joe Cullen gave me last week.
Yeah, there's still some work, and I think it's more likely that they would be looking for an edge too than probably a tackle on the defensive line. But Chris, what does Ethan Driscoll and Curtis Jacobs need to show on Thursday to get onto the 53?
Driscoll, I don't think is going to be on the 53 this year. I think he's practice squad. Now, do I think he's a long-term offensive tackle and a very promising offensive tackle for them? Yes, but I can already tell you right now, he needs a year of strength training. He needs a year to get NFL strong. That's the number one thing he needs. So if he gets a good weight training program, you will see a very different player next year in a positive way. But athletically, he's got what they want right now.
There he is right there. Number 75.
That's right. He's got what they want, like what you want in the NFL. He can pull, he can get in space, he can do all that. In terms of punch right now, I think punch is going to need a little bit of work. I think anchor at times is going to need a little bit of work, but the key things he has for him, athletic ability, foot quickness, and the ability to bend naturally for a guy of his size. Now, do I think it's a risk if they do waive him and put him on a practice squad? It might be, and I will not be happy if he gets claimed by another team, but I do see a promise there long term, and he is somebody that I think belongs on the roster. For Jacobs has a lot of – he's one of the top special teams players in snaps. Matt and I will probably get into that later. We'll try to burn through the questions first and get to that. But, yeah, for somebody like Jacobs, he had that one big play, that one flash where he shot the gap and made the tackle in the backfield. You want to see more things like that. But what I can tell you collectively for the Chiefs as a linebacking group that goes back into the last thing, the Chiefs linebacking core is very athletic. This is one of the most athletic linebacking cores the Chiefs have had in their ability to drop, their ability to read, their ability to shuffle, and their ability to fill where they need to. For the Chiefs, like even if they do waive some of these guys, I would honestly try to get any of those linebackers back on the practice squad. If you can get all three of them back on there, do it. Develop them, because I think that there's a lot of promise there. And the one sneaky thing I will say that has nothing to do with this, but nobody's going to ask it, is if I'm the Chiefs, I find a way to take Leo Chenal and start sneaking him in a defensive end and pass rusher. I think there's something to be had there to where I think long term Leo Chenal has a lot more promise as a defensive end than I think they've tapped into yet.
I cannot disagree with any of those things. And yeah, I mean, if Curtis Jacobs is going to make this team, it's going to be because he's a special teams ace. That's what he needs to show on as Thursday, is that he just needs to kick butt and take names on special teams all night long. Yep. Ethan Driscoll, you're right. Everything I've heard and echoes exactly what you've said, which is that this kid can do a lot of things, just isn't strong enough yet, and needs a year in a weight room, and could be a completely different player, and could be a really good player. Okay, Mango, you hit your quota before Nick got here, but I'm gonna let you have one more.
Yeah, apparently he didn't, because you're letting him ask another one.
Well,
Mango has like 12 questions in the comments.
I clicked and let it happen. So I'm taking the L, Nick. Nico has a good game against the Bears. Will that go a long way towards helping his case of Tobe's comments today and Nagy's love for the receiver? Can't hurt.
I mean, the thing I found interesting, because part of the reason in my process of being late, I couldn't. Hey, there's Curtis Jacobs right there. Look at him shuffle. Look at that back pedal, and then look at that drive tackle. For the tackle. Perfect form. That's what I'm talking about there. And then look at Leo. Leo's just a bruiser. Leo's a bruiser that should be playing defensive end right there. That's what that guy. And Tranquil's a beast. Like just such a good linebacker, and plays with his hair on fire. There's Curtis Jacobs again. Curtis Jacobs, like, you haven't seen enough of me. You want to see some more? Here's some people who have some doubters. Check out this doubt. No, but seriously, what were we talking about again? No, I'm kidding. Nico Remigio. The fact that Nico Remigio and Justin Ross were both on the field there in the fourth quarter tells me that like they're not locked into place one way or another. So I mean, Tobe obviously wants him as a returner. It's just a question of how many other guys does Dave Tobe, like, like, hey, I need this guy on my special teams. I need this person on my special teams and that person on my special teams. Is it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10? I don't know. And I'm not saying that Dave Tobe would do that, but I'm just saying, like, how many is he calling in that favor for? I think will determine somebody like Nico Remigio.
I completely agree. So Nico's going to need a big, I think, special teams play himself. A return play would certainly help him on Thursday night. Albert, any chance at all Hollywood plays in week 1? A chance? Is it a good chance? Probably not. I think week 2 or week 3 is much more likely, but I know he wants to play in that game, Nick. I mean, Hollywood Brown playing the Ravens, he had that one circled on his calendar the moment that the schedule came out.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, I mean, I think it's a long shot personally.
I think it is too, but week 2 or week 3, much more likely. Scott, does this draft class have a chance to be better than the Humphreys, Bolton, Smith class?
I think it all just comes down to how many can contribute, and do they contribute in crucial moments during the playoffs where they need them to.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be that gave you 3-4 year starters. I mean, right now, where you have that, you might have 2 4-year starters. I mean, we'll see how it comes out. So I think I'd probably give the edge, at least initially, to the Humphrey Bolton Smith class, but there's still plenty of time. It's a lot of upside in this group, although I think there's already one foul tip, at least for now, but we'll see what happens from here. So 32 beat writers, a bit late and hoping it hasn't been asked yet. Does Carson Steele have a chance to take the running back 2? What can he be for this team? I mean, he absolutely certainly has a chance. I mean, they're giving him a chance. I'm expecting, I'll be interested to see. I mean, I'm expecting Deneric Prince to be the number 2 running back on this team. I still don't know where Clyde fits onto this team. Things can still change in another week, but and there could certainly there'll be a rotation. I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, it's going to be a little bit of a committee behind Isaiah Pacheco, but so far what I've seen, Nick, I mean, he's absolutely has a chance.
Yeah, I mean, for Carson Steele, like here, I don't really. I know sometimes we're going to go running back 2, running back 3, running back 4, but what Steele gives you right now is he gives you a reliable special teams performer, a reliable special teams returner. He gives you somebody that's got a lot of physicality, like a Mike Allstott with Tampa Bay did back in the day, because of the power he has in his legs, the way his leg drive that he has, how much lower body strength that he has. Carson can do that. So from a short yardage perspective, Carson Steele's the guy that I'm putting in if I'm the Chiefs in goal line situations, 3rd and 1s and stuff like that, because I know that guy can lower the shoulder and get the yard and will keep that leg drive going to convert that first down. And also if he needs to cut back, he's capable of cutting back. He doesn't really lose anything because he's a north-south power type of runner. So you're not losing any lateral quickness by him having to stretch stuff out. He's going to see it. If he has to run over a teammate, he's going to run over a teammate. So like that's just how Carson Steele rolls. And like he can catch passes. As you and I talked about back during OTAs and minicamp, he would sprint to the end zone on every single play. And that was something you and I mentioned. And we did not personally get to see how physical he was as a running back and his lower body strength until we got to see him actually make contact in the Jacksonville Jaguars game. That's why he's become as hot as he has, to where he's almost Hansel hot like on Zoolander. Because, well, besides that and the pet alligator he's got, Crocky J. But like, which by the way, I'm gonna put a package up tomorrow when I get back to work, so people who weren't in town get to see Mick Schaefer's pregame show package about
Excellent
Carson and the alligator pet alligators. Got very funny. But all that combined, like I feel like Carson's at minimum going to be one of your top 3 running backs, and I think he's going to contribute in a lot of different ways. But I think his biggest contribution is going to be short yardage and special teams.
Yep. Nick and you and I agree too much. We need to probably at some point just figure out some things that we don't agree on and fight so everybody can, enjoy it. Although I don't know if there's anything we ever fight about. We've never had a fight.
We don't fight. We just respectfully disagree. We don't challenge each other to a duel.
We don't. Gary, how do you feel the linebackers will do this year? I'll let you dive into this one first, Nick.
I already answered it earlier. It's the most athletic group they've got.
Nick Bolton needs to stay healthy. That would be nice. Yeah, it is the most athletic group that they've got. Yeah, I agree with you on Leo. Leo as an on-ball linebacker, I want to see more and more of. Closer to him to the line of scrimmage, I think that the better. And him crashing it down as a defensive end from time to time, I think would be fantastic to see. I mean, obviously, having a brain cramp, Nick. Drew Tranquil is an all-around linebacker. Having him and Nick Bolton on the field at the same time is going to, I think, be really good for this team this year. It's that's going to be a plus. I mean, but I'm also bullish on Jack Cochran. I know, Pano, I know you're worried about the second team linebackers. I think Jack Cochran is a solid, reliable, especially as a Mike linebacker. That's where I think he's probably more suited. I mean, as a number 2 like Mike linebacker, I think that's fine. I'm still bullish on Cam Jones. I know he had a bad play on Saturday, but I'll tell you, Nick, and I think we talked about this the other day. That looked to me, because let's face it, there have been some troubles and struggles.
Hey, looky there.
With there you go. There have been some troubles and struggles with the second and third team with tackling, and the play that Cam Jones had, where he really looked kind of lost out there. He looked to me at that point in time like I've got 10 guys on the field that I know need backup, and I don't know which one of them to help out the most. And then had to go make a play, and he was out of position for it because he's basically trying to go in 10 different directions to help out. And you can't play like that. I mean, hey, Spag says your job plus doesn't mean your job plus 10. So you can't do that. Because I've seen at camp, I haven't seen a guy who's lost. I mean, Cam Jones, to me, I've seen him move seamlessly between all 3 spots. He's played Mike. He's played outside. I don't have a huge problem with him as a backup linebacker. I think he's going to be fine. He's a good special teams player too, but I could be wrong. You like how I back off on things, Nick, when I have a solid point, and then I want to be diplomatic, and I start to see both sides, and then I'm just like, but I could be wrong.
Matt, you got to do what feels right in your heart, okay? Like, I already have people in the comment section that hate me on a regular basis, so especially Justin Ross related. Ooh, oh boy, oh boy.
I like that. I'm just going to put that up on the screen because I'm trying to have an ego night. And Nick is not going to tell us his lottery number, so I'm not even going to ask.
No, I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you my lottery numbers. I'm not. You will, Matt. I said this in the comment section. People don't believe me. You will not know I won unless I have to do a press conference. Am I right? Am I right?
Would you do a press conference?
Not if I don't have to.
Exactly. See, so Deldrick, would it be hard to say that there were no catchable balls thrown towards Toney in the last preseason game? I mean, he had at least one, because I remember he caught one. So he got blown up on that play because Justin Ross can't block. But
yeah.
Now you're getting salty, Matt, at 8:40. So
look, here's what I'll say: that one pass that may have quote unquote looked a little high. He tried to fancy one arm it and use his athletic ability instead of putting both hands up to catch it. And I know that because I was watching coach's film before I put myself behind. So for people that don't know, I watched the Raiders today. I was going to watch the Broncos and the Chargers in case we got questions on them, but I didn't get time, and I finished up coach's film. So I went through all the coach's film again just to refresh myself since Sunday. And I knew I'd get a question that would potentially be like this. And so now I was ready for it. But then that put me behind on picking out my lottery numbers. And Matt knows in the past when we've done Q&As, we've gone so long that I only have till 8:50, 8:55, and the lottery numbers close at 9. So there has been times where Matt has wrecked my financial future on that night.
Mine too, because
I like to pretend I would have.
If Nick wins, he's going to become a silent partner in Chiefs Digest. So,
well, it's not silent anymore since you said it publicly.
I know. I kind of messed that up. So,
way to go, Matt. you were not going to know that I won the lottery.
But when you started showing up shooting video at Chiefs practice for Chiefs Digest, wearing a monocle and dressed like the Mr. Monopoly Man, people would know.
They wouldn't know unless you posted a photo on Twitter, which at this point I'm beginning to think you would.
Only if it was during an install.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I hope I answered your Kadarius Toney question.
I mean, catchable balls has not been Toney's problem, at least in training camp. But yeah, I thought that ball that he jumped for, when I saw it live, I was like, why is he jumping and why is he trying to catch it with one hand?
Yeah, well, he was trying to make a highlight reel.
He was trying to make a highlight reel rather than catch the ball, which is that's a problem. Mm-hmm. Ed, what is the biggest weakness on this team?
Defensive end depth. It's not even close. Like defensive end depth's the one spot where I'm genuinely worried. Cornerback wise, I think Dave Merritt can develop him over time. Like I'm not as worried about that long term. Do I think he'd have some growing pains for the first 8 weeks? Probably so. But I think over time, they always seem to find their groove, cornerback and safety-wise and secondary overall. But defensive end wise, like who's your third, fourth, potentially fifth rusher, that's where I've got some concern. And if there is only one spot you could invest in, I think that's a part of it. But behind that for me is running back.
I mean, defensive end is really the biggest one for me. I mean, I'm still maybe naively bullish on the cornerback group that, like you said, that Dave Merritt's going to be able to get more out of this group than anyone thinks. And that maybe they're grading just a little bit on a curve. I mean, nobody's going to be as good as L'Jarius Sneed was last couple of years, but I don't think that they necessarily have to get that. They just need some solid play. And if they get it through matchups and rotations, doesn't matter how you get it, just get it. But yeah, edge. I mean, when I'm building a 53-man roster, I'm looking at this, Nick. I mean, Malik Herring is your number 4 edge rusher right now. Mm-hmm. And your number 5 would be Truman Jones, who's dinged up right now. So not sure you have a number 5. Chiefs would like to keep 10 defensive linemen. They'd like to have 5 edges. They don't have 5 edges right now. Right. So that's the thing. And I mean, you're going to get Charles Omenihu back at some point, but you know what? I mean, you're going to get Charles Omenihu back. Doesn't mean everybody else is going to stay healthy. So you're still looking for depth. So I think that's what they're going to be looking for on the waiver wire. And if there's anybody out there that they may like. So your first 53 is not going to be your last 53 for week 1 necessarily. So, Aaron, you had the question. I mean, we really don't have any serious updates on Hollywood's recovery. Just it's coming along. Probably not week 1, week 2, much more likely. So, Ezra, they don't like Rees-Zammit because they know he's going to outshine everyone. Why didn't they barely play him in the last game?
It's because he doesn't really know what he's doing right now. So you got to remember, though, he's coming over from rugby, and like they're trying to give him the most natural transition possible. And running back was the easiest one to do that for this current year. But I can already tell you now, I watched him miss a block on coach's film earlier when he was doing punt return. He's supposed to be one of the gunners. They're giving him every chance to try to find a home right now and try to justify why they would put him on a roster. And I mean, right now, it's just not something that's working out for him, and it's not clicking in certain parts of the game, and that's going to take a whole year. So, is he going to outshine everybody? No, he can't even read in the backfield some of the runs right now. There's specific runs he can do, but in terms of zone read, he can't do that right now. So he's not going to be outshining Pacheco. He's not going to be outshining Carson Steele. But that's not supposed to happen because this is literally his first handful of months ever playing football, and he's doing it at the highest level imaginable.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. I mean, they're giving him the plays right now and the snaps that he's comfortable with and getting him to do things that he's comfortable with. They're not going to ask him to do more than that. And has he made tremendous progress since rookie minicamp? Yes, he has. Does he need a lot more seasoning and development? I mean, I asked Matt Nagy that today, and the answer was yes. I mean, he still has a lot of work to do, and even on special teams, there's a lot of work to do. If he were to make this team as a special teams player, possibly, but I did not get the vibe from even Dave Toub today because Dave Toub didn't say he was going to be pounding the table for Rees-Zammit. He said he was going to be pounding the table for Nico Remigio, and maybe that's sandbagging, but I mean, Rees-Zammit, a year on the practice squad, I think next year would be a completely different conversation. Mm-hmm. So let's give him the time to develop because he is a legitimate athlete. It's just that he needs time to pick up the game. I mean, he's going up against guys who've been playing it their entire lives. If Patrick Mahomes went to go play cricket, he wouldn't be playing for the Welsh national team in year 1. So there you go. Ed's follow-up, which position group can least afford a significant injury?
Defensive line.
I was going to say quarterback, just to knock on wood.
Oh, yeah, there's that too. Yeah, no, touché, sir. Number 1 quarterback is number 1, but behind that's defensive line.
You definitely don't want your quarterback hurt. I don't. To me, I wouldn't want another injury at the wide receiver group. So.
Well, what's Brian trying to say here at 755 2 below? Okay. What's he trying to say here? That didn't cost that much. Didn't cost $6. No, I don't know what Brian.
Depends on where you're shopping, Brian. I mean, yeah, you can get Although, and this does explain why, if you saw the video of me earlier, that I look like I've put on weight because, I may have had a few too many of the king size Reese's big cups recently, because those things are addictive, man.
But I'm telling you, the candy bar was not $6.
No, it is not a $6 candy bar. You gotta be a smart shopper there, Rick. So.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking for a question mark. So remember, folks, if you do want me to answer your questions, add some question marks. And occasionally, if you do that, I will read a statement that's not a question. And
808, man.
Alicia's?
Well, that's the next question. It has a question mark.
Does Toney even know enough of the playbook to give it? Seriously?
I mean,
no. I mean,
there
would not be any fears of that.
Like I said a couple weeks ago on our Q&A, I genuinely thought he was lost when he was in the running back drill. So if I'm saying stuff like that, then from a playbook perspective, it wouldn't stun me either if there are times where he's not always 100% sure, or, like this past week in preseason when he was on the line, well, the tight end was also on the line, and then he also held on the play. None of those things surprise me.
Darren wants to know, is John Gruden going to be around the team this year in some role? No, he was just here for a week to visit. He and Andy are friends. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I don't know if he's got any other friends left in the league, Nick. Maybe if he did, I'm sure he'd go be visiting some other teams. But no, if for no other reason that I'm pretty sure that with his arbitration lawsuit against the NFL, he's probably not looking for a job right now, because he's trying to get the Raiders to pay him. So, but nope, that's just friends hanging out together. Choro, what was the major award? I did not receive an award. I mean, I know
that's Joshua Briscoe's fault on that one.
The picture was misleading. If you saw it on Twitter or anything of that nature,
tweet was misleading.
That too.
Brisco stirred that one up, dude. That was Brisco to a T, though.
Well, I saw the picture, Nick, and I thought it looked like one of two things. It either looked like me presenting the Dr. Z award to Steve Spagnuolo, or it looked like Steve Spagnuolo was giving me a trophy for winning a hot dog eating contest.
And then, but earlier in the day, Josh Brisco quote tweeted it after on his own tweet and mentioned how Steve Spagnuolo was giving Matt Derrick an award today. And
I missed that.
Yeah, since Brisco has the following he does, I knew that was going to pick up some steam, and that's also why I didn't retweet it, although it was funny and it's totally on brand for Brisco.
I just saw him saying something along the lines of it was something that he liked to see, and I thought it was just that he had said that because he likes me and he likes Steve Spagnuolo. I didn't know he said that Steve Spagnuolo was giving me an award. I mean, I wish that Steve Spagnuolo was giving me an award. I mean, even if it was the hot dog eating award, I would take that. But I did not get a hot dog award or any other award, unfortunately, from Steve Spagnuolo. He did get a lifetime achievement trophy from me, though. So. Who's the pleasured one there now?
And Brisco responds to his own tweet and says, and you may not be able to tell by the picture, but Spags is actually giving Matt a lifetime achievement award. Like I told you, that's Brisco.
There you go. Well, I stand corrected. Go for Casey. I guess we didn't technically address this completely when we were talking about whether or not Nick Bolton is injury prone, but is it going to be a problem? I don't have huge worries, Nick. I mean, he's back. He's practicing. I mean, he's going to have a couple more weeks to let it rest. I mean, we'll see. It doesn't sound like it's going to require surgery or anything of this nature. It sounds like at this point it's just rest. And that's at least the one thing he's going to be able to get over the next almost 2 weeks.
Well, that's what he's also gotten since it happened. I mean, they're only putting him on the field, letting him get conditioning stuff last week at camp. So, I mean, when you don't see a player on the field, that's when you get concerned. And if you don't see a player on the field for multiple weeks, that's when you get really concerned. The fact you just saw him in video from last week should not concern you.
Yeah. So, I mean, I still worry about having to play with one arm because he had to play with one arm last year. But the Chiefs at this point don't seem to be terribly concerned. And if they were concerned, they would shut him down even further. But the fact that he's back in practice and working with it, pretty good sign to me. Albert, Matt and Nick cameo in the franchise win. I mean, I'm not going to lie, Nick. I mean, I see the franchise and I see myself and yourself not on it, and my feelings are a little hurt. I mean, just a little, but
Look, man, I already had my time, okay? I used to go to the studio and do stuff for 62 toss power trap back in 14, 15, 16 range. Whenever they'd interview us during the summer and have us give our thoughts on players and do breakdowns and everything. And they had a lot of people back on then because they had their 810 partners. They had us as Metro Sports partners. But hey, I mean, look, I still enjoy watching the franchise, whether I'm on it or not. I don't care. So it doesn't bother me.
I mean, it doesn't bother me. It hurts a little, but I'll get over it.
Matt, you have a Q&A and a 41 Mic podcast every week, sir.
And here's my friend Dave from Arizona. Greatly appreciated, Dave. May have missed it, but what is the latest with Creed? I mean, no news is good. I mean, no news is nothing news, I guess. I was going to say good news. It's not really good news, I think. I mean, I know there was a report out there that thought that something with Creed might be done by the beginning of the season or end of training camp. I never bought into that. I could be proven wrong. Maybe something will still happen in the next couple of weeks. It's going to come down, Dave, to simply how much does Creed Humphrey want? I mean, I've been told he wants to be paid like a guard. The question is, does he want to be paid like the highest paid guard in the league, or does he want to be paid like maybe the top 5 highest paid guards in the league? That's a different number, Nick. And if he wants to be the highest paid guard in the league, that's $21 million a year. And next spring it might be $22 or $23 million a year. That's a lot for a center. When the top center in the league right now is making, Frank Ragnow is making what, 13.5? That's a difference. So the Chiefs want him back, but if it depends on the devil is in the details, because you can say that both sides can say that they want to be back, that the Chiefs want him back, and Creed can say that he wants to be back. But when one side has a different number in mind than the other side, it's going to slow things down a little bit, Nick. We've seen that before.
Yeah. So personally, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to enjoy football for a while. That's just me, though. I'm going to watch some coaches film, and then I'm going to watch some games. Then I'm going to watch some more games, and I'm just going to put this in a rearview mirror until, I don't know, February. So that's just me, though.
See, I know Dave is a huge Creed Humphrey fan because he is a huge Oklahoma fan, which means that he is now where it just matters more, Nick, in the SEC. And really, really, I mean, no offense, Dave, I'm really looking forward to giving Oklahoma a little bit of a dose of SEC reality. But your mileage may vary.
It sounds like some personal friends talking right there.
I said that with love.
Oh, goodness.
Don't tease us, Matt. Who was the foul tip? Haddon? Yeah, that's the foul tip. He's raw and needs more time. Haven't heard anything bad yet. No, I mean, Haddon's just been a third team corner, and he's swimming a little bit. I mean, that's nothing new for a young player. It happens. He definitely needs more seasoning. If he ends up on the practice squad, it's where he just needs to get some experience. So, yeah, I mean, that's what, like I said, that's why I'd put it in the foul tip category as a draft pick right now. It's not a swing, not a miss. It's just more work needs to be done. All right, are we getting down there, Nick? I'm seeing.
Yeah, no, we're good. Minus unless you want to talk about Latrell bringing up the hot dog race.
We got. Any new contract extensions or anybody for coming up? Nothing that I've been told is imminent, Weston. I mean, let's keep an eye out. I mean, something could happen. There are always surprises, but nothing that I've heard is imminent. So just hang on there. And are the Chiefs ever going to pay a center? Oh, they will one day. I mean, I did not see the hot dog, but
it's at 8:30. It's at 8:38.
I missed that one.
It's in between Go Ford KC.
8:38.
Yeah, 8:38.
There we go. The Digest fans need Nick or Matt to defend our honor and beat best Nate Taylor in a foot race dressed as a hot dog. I mean, I wouldn't mind being team ketchup, Nick, because I mean I am a ketchup guy. But
I'm relish. So
wow, that would fit really well. I mean,
that would, but I mean, Nate already lived out his dream. He already not only did he be in the hot dog race, he won, and he got to be Mustard, was his favorite to begin with.
Which was his favorite, and if he does not go full Seinfeld here and go, I choose not to run going forward, he has to. I mean, you have to retire a champion. You do not go back out there and risk it. That said, my knees are so shot, Nick, that I don't like my chances against Nate.
And I can already tell you now, I'll be out of breath after like 3 or 4 steps. So unless you're gonna get me like a rascal, and whenever I'm turning around left field, 10-2 overhand to try to get there, I'm just telling you, like it's not. I can tell you, I don't want to be the first person in the hot dog race to have a heart attack on the field. So I'm just saying.
I mean, that is how I would go. I mean, I do have a recurring. I mean, ever since I'm trying to remember when it started. I feel like it came up as a kid. I know it was at least goes back to the time that I was on a tilt-a-whirl and my seatbelt came undone, and I thought I was going to fly out of the tilt-a-whirl and get killed. Even though tilt-a-whirl, I think, was probably only going like 5 miles an hour, and I don't think I could have gotten thrown out of a tilt-a-whirl. But I've always felt that I am going to either 1, die a carnival death, or 2, just something that is noteworthy and going to be in the press. I mean, that why I was concerned that one day when I thought there might be a gas leak at KSHB 41, because I know that if the station had blown up during Sunday Sound Off, Nick, I mean, the story would have been TV's Mick Schaefer killed in gas explosion, also dead Mark Dietrich. That's how the story would have read. Would have gotten both my names wrong. See, so
about those snap counts. Trying to put me in an awkward situation at work.
Me dying at a hot dog race, I'm just saying, from a heart attack in a hot dog race, would be on brand with how I expect to go. But 2, I will say this: if ever given the opportunity, even though my knees are shot, I would play dirty, Nick, and I wouldn't play dirty against you. But I mean, there's no doubt Nate would be going down at the line. I mean, at the starting line. I mean, elbows, kick to the knee, anything, whatever it takes to get Nate on the ground to give me an edge. I'd have to do it because I run dirty. Rubbin's racing. I learned that in Days of Thunder.
All right. Well,
all right. Let's see if this works, Nick. We're going to. Oh, that's not going to work. Will this work?
Already off to a great start.
We are off to a great start. I had gotten. Oh, there we go. It's not going to be perfect, but it is going to be ish. So,
okay. All right then.
Let's bring it up. So, snap counts. So, tell us what we're looking at.
So, for people that want to know, I did this last night. I'll put it out on Twitter, but I wanted it to be for the people that like to watch our Q&A. I wanted them to be able to have it first before I put it out there. This is the snap counts for everybody in the preseason, what their total is, what their trend is. Anybody that's in orange is the snap count leader, either on offense or in special teams at their position group. So right now, Derek Prince is the leader among running backs in terms of snaps, and him and Rees-Zammit are tied for special team snaps. Now, if you go down there, Justin Ross at the wide receiver group, he's the leader in terms of snaps they've had on offense, which tells me they're wanting to get a long look at what he can or can't do and see and put enough tape out there to see where he has developed, what he still needs to work on. And the fact he's had that many snaps tells me they're pretty undecided. And Nico Remigio is 11 behind him, which tells me personally that they have a little bit more of an idea about where he's at than where Justin may be on that front. And then obviously Cornell Powell and Montreal Washington are their leaders in special team snaps, which both of them probably aren't going to be on the 53, which says the wide receiver group for the most part may not have a lot of impact in terms of what they do special teams wise.
Yeah, and this is incredibly great info. I really appreciate you putting that together. And
what I'm here for, Matt. I did it till midnight last night.
That is amazing. Of course, it's amazing. And the other thing to consider too is, when those snaps are coming in, because like for Justin Ross and for Nico Remigio on Saturday, Justin Ross was getting decent snaps with the first team. I don't have his exact numbers in front of me, but he was getting first team snaps in the first half.
But he was Nico also playing until 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter.
There's that. So, you gotta take them both and consider everything. But definitely, because there's things on here that do surprise me and things that.
Oh yeah, I told you it was going to. I told you earlier. Hey, I was surprised by a handful of them.
I was surprised that Rees-Zammit is getting that many special teams reps. It makes total sense.
Yeah.
but it does surprise me a little bit. Once again, I'm just continually amazed, Nick, that more people do not love Montrell Washington as much as I do. I mean, I think he's a very, very reliable special teams player. I think he's a very reliable return specialist, and he is a very good deep ball receiver. I mean, especially working with Carson Wentz on the second team. I almost said Nick Jacobs on the second team. Working with the Carson Wentz on the second team, he has made just as many big plays downfield as Hollywood and Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy have on the first team. He's been very, very good.
Not terrible, Matt. Not terrible.
But only had 6 offensive snaps against Detroit. So
We
that
can
tells
move on
you,
to tight ends and offensive line.
tells you where he is. So we've got tight ends and offensive lines, Nick.
That's right. Okay, so Jared Wiley actually surprised me how many snaps, but I think they're wanting him to get a lot of reps, obviously, before regular season. So I totally get why they're doing that. But it already tells me he's going to be a big factor on special teams.
Yep. He's
for
a
him to already
four-phase
have-
player for
yeah,
sure.
For him to already have 23 through 2 games, that really jumped out to me. I was like, well, he's going to be playing on a lot of special teams. That doesn't happen any other way.
Yeah, when we talk about like phases, if we say the guy's a 4-phase special teams player, that means he's playing on punt return, he's playing on punt coverage, he's playing on kick return, he's playing on kick coverage. And that is absolutely Jared Wiley. He's playing on all 4 teams, and doesn't mean he will when the season gets there, but right now they're giving him as many snaps as they possibly can in every area. Yeah. And the offensive line tells you too. I mean, those 3 guys that are in orange are the ones that they know the least about, that they want to learn the most about, because all 3 of those guys have a chance to be in this organization this year. I mean, Hunter Norzat's going to be on the 53. CJ Hansen could be 53, could be practice squad. Ethan Driscoll, probably practice squad. But they're not going to get snaps during the regular season. This is the time that you want to get as much work for them as you can. So that does not surprise me in the least.
Defensive line time.
Defensive line. There we go.
That one interested me. I mean, Felix, I totally understand. He needs as many snaps as he can get because you're trying to develop him. As of now, he's going to be your number 3 edge rusher. I think he's a pass rush specialist. I still think he's got a long ways to go as a run defender, and I think they're going to have to use him more probably in a wide 9 type of look, because he seems better as an angle rusher when he has a chance to get his startup going out of his stance versus when he's closer in a 5-tech spot and the offensive tackle makes contact with him a step or 2 into it. He needs a little bit more to get going, and right now he's still working on transitioning that speed and turning it into a powerful bull rush. So, and he's better at hand fighting, but some of the counter moves, he's better when he's out in a wide 9 spot than he is head up on the tackle for the most part. So they're going to have to work on that. I was surprised at how many snaps Truman Jones had on special teams, though. That really stuck out to me, where I'm like, hey, he may be on the 53 as the 5th defensive end, but if not, he's definitely got practice squad worthiness to be a call up on special teams at minimum.
And that is really curious, because there's a spot for sometimes defensive linemen on special teams. Not usually that much. I mean, that's a 3-phase, 4-phase kind of guy right there,
right, for
those snap you counts. That's not normal.
Right.
So, I mean, he's undersized. He's a tweener. There's no doubt about it. I mean, there's a legitimate question about, whether he's a linebacker or defensive end.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, special teams counts say he's a linebacker, but he's a defensive end.
Yeah, and then from a linebacker perspective, it's not surprising to see Cam Jones get that many snaps on defense. But then for Cole Christensen and Curtis Jacobs, that's why even if they don't make the 53, I see both of them immediately being on the practice squad if they can be, because that's an easy call up right there. If they're already getting that many special team snaps, and these numbers are going to jump again these numbers are going to jump again if they both play against Chicago, which I think they both will. So, I mean, those numbers, I think special teams wise, Matt, wouldn't you say probably more than anything else, they'll be 35, 36 range if they're getting 12, 13, 14 special team snaps.
Yeah, and considering that none of the starters will be playing this week, I mean, they're probably going to get more work than they have in the past. So it's even entirely possible that they're getting more than 13 snaps. this week. I mean, it's not going to be substantially, but it could be 14, 15, 16. Yeah, I mean, it very well could, because they'll probably be on every single play. This game is going to essentially be kind of, Nick, I mean, there's 90 guys on the roster. There's going to be more than 22 guys that aren't playing this week. I mean, it's probably going to be closer to 30 or 35 that are not playing this week. So that really gets you closer down to, okay, this is a regular season roster that you're going to be playing with this week. It's just different names, but it's not going to be as deep as a regular preseason game will be. So guys are going to play a lot of snaps.
Yep. And then going to quarterbacks now. I thought it was funny that Kelvin Joseph, who didn't play in week 1, has the most snaps among cornerbacks, all purely impressive. Week 2. I thought that was really interesting. And then obviously Nick Jones getting as many special team snaps as he does. The reason that's big is because then you're like, okay, could he be the first thing I'm thinking of last night? Okay, could he be the 5th or 6th corner? And where does that compare to what Joseph may do this week? And then you kind of, and then Echo Boydo, interesting that he has as many special team snaps as he does, but at corner he struggled on coach's film this past week with some of the assignments. So it's kind of one of those back and forth aspects to it.
Yeah, there's some really weird things that stick out to me on cornerbacks, Nick. I mean, Miles Battle not getting any snaps against Detroit. It's kind of curious. I mean, Nick Jones only getting 7, going from 26 to 7. I mean, that would not be a great sign for me if I were one of those two players. But
yeah, because I remember Jones was, I don't remember how much he's in the third quarter. I remember seeing him occasionally in the fourth quarter.
But he played 13 special team snaps, so it wasn't like he just missed part of the game or went out with an injury. I mean, he was still playing special team snaps. So, and I mean, if he were on the 53, that would be his job. I mean, it would be as a special teams player.
Right.
Miles Battle, I mean, he's a big corner, but I think that probably spells just, hey, he's still a developmental player.
Right.
But the numbers for Echo Boydo and Kamal Haddon, and yeah, those are also kind of stand out to me a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they do. And then safeties, you got Jaden Hicks, who has the most among safeties on special teams with Dion Bush closely, and then Tyree Gillespie, and then Chris Roland Wallace having the most among safeties. They're clearly wanting to get for him to have 30 snaps in both games combined. I thought was interesting because they're really wanting to get a look about what they would like to invest in him in terms of maybe it's a back spot as a safety or more so where I think it's going to be on the practice squad. But I mean, it's interesting. You can tell once you put the puzzle pieces together like this, you can kind of see, okay, who have they honed in on that they were looking at in game 1 and game 2 that they wanted to evaluate and truly get answers on. And then who were some people that didn't get snaps where you're like, oh, that's not good.
Yeah, and one thing that, I mean, does jump out to me when you have that part of the conversation is, hey, you're giving Jaden Hicks a ton of snaps because he's a rookie. You want to get as many looks as him as you possibly can. He's not a starter. He's going to be playing Thursday night too. He's probably going to play a decent amount, probably the entire first half. I don't know if he might play into the second half. Who knows? Mm-hmm. Probably a lot of special teams. But once again, because he is going to be the 4th safety when everybody is healthy, I mean, you want to get him as many snaps as you can now. Chris Roland Wallace is really interesting because there's no doubt. I mean, this is a guy that they're evaluating. He's really come on in the last few weeks of camp. He's just been a steady improvement kind of guy. And whether he's, they are considering him for, and you and I are, Nick, because we are smart guys and everything. We're probably one of the, I don't mean to pat ourselves on the back. We're probably 2 of the only people who realize that Chris Roland Wallace is a safety since he did play college corner, but the Chiefs moved him and DJ Miller, who are both college corners. They moved him to safety, and they've been working them there the entire camp. But not everybody's figured that out. So that's the kind of insight you get from us, though.
Well, all I can tell you is it's in the Excel.
But the other one that stands out is Dion Bush, because if you're the Chiefs, you don't need to evaluate Dion Bush. You know everything you need to know about Dion Bush. But you're not giving Dion Bush 70 snaps because you just want to. You're giving him 70 snaps because he's part of your plan this year. So he's either on the 53 or you're giving him a lot of snaps because he's going to be on the practice squad. But they got a plan for Dion Bush. There's no doubt about that. You don't give a veteran that kind of work unless it's because you're like, hey, this guy is going to be on our team. He's not going to get snaps during the regular season. We need to get him as many as he can now. The Chiefs had a very similar philosophy last year with Charles and Minihue. They knew they weren't going to have him for the first 6 weeks of the season, but they gave him all the preseason reps that they could because they're like, well, one, he's going to be a starter when he comes back. So we need to act like he's a starter. But two, like, he's going to have no snaps for 6 weeks. He needs to get as many snaps as he can before he's out of here. So, that's the thing. I mean, if you've got a player like a Deion Bush that's not going to be playing as much because they are going to be a backup, but they're part of your plan, you're going to give them a ton of work now. So that's just little things in there that I find intriguing, Nick.
So look at that, guys. We gave you a Steve Spagnuolo presentation. You had 29 minutes of Chiefs video from practice yesterday and from camp last week. And of, players we're talking about, linebackers and corners and safeties. And you got a full breakdown on snap counts. I don't know what else you can ask for in a live segment that's for free. I don't know what more else you can ask for.
That's true. I can't. I guess we could answer one more question since I see one more in the last call for questions. So
all right, Matt, I've got everything done tonight, minus putting the trash out and the laundry.
I need to put my trash out. That is true.
So I'm not rushed tonight. So after this, all I got to do is go eat my food and watch Hard Knocks. So ask away.
There you go. Well, Gabo, do you think that since they do not have a cornerback 2 defined at this point in the preseason, are going to affect something like communication in the field, and the teams will attack as much as possible to that spot? I mean, I'll break it down. Guess, Nick, is cornerback 2 the weak link? Is that what teams are going to attack?
First off, before we get to that, Latrell, I'm not giving you the lottery numbers no matter how many times you ask. Not happening. I'm not giving in. Okay, it's just not happening. You're not even if it says that somebody won the lottery in a state that I may or may not be in, you're not going to know. I'm never going to say anything. You're not going to know.
Literal, if I ever find out the numbers, I'll tell you, which is why Nick will never tell me the numbers.
You're never going to find out the numbers. Because if you do, it's because I won.
I could possibly
you won't know that I won.
I could guess some of them. But
okay, good luck. So, but to get back to your question, teams are going to go after whoever the number 2 cornerback is, like just because. But each team's going to attack the Chiefs, and there's some teams that are going to attack. Like for example, the Ravens, they're going to see how tough that Chiefs run defense is. They want to see if they can hold up against them, and they're going to consistently go after them with a pounding ground type of game for part of it. Then they're going to see how well the Chiefs contain. And the other kicker is they're going to go over a lot of what Steve Spagnuolo did in the tape from last year and things that they missed on and things that have been haunting them all off season that they're regretting. And they're going to try to attack those things. So if there's anything that the offensive coordinator for him learned last year is that they didn't run the ball enough. So I will be stunned if they make that same mistake again. But if they do, I'll be like, you should probably talk to the coordinator about, turning in his headset because that means you learn nothing in the offseason if that's the case. But I think they're going to run the ball a lot. I think there's going to be 35, 40 rushing attempts, and they're going to try to ground and pound the Chiefs. But what the Chiefs, if they can do on their front, guess what? The Ravens coaching staffs, for the most part, went to Miami and Seattle. So, like, their defensive coordinators, now the head coach in Seattle. The one Anthony Weaver that they were going to have potentially bump up to that spot, he went to the Dolphins. So all I'm getting at here is that if there's a defense that's going to have more communication issues than the Chiefs, it's going to be the Baltimore Ravens in week 1 because part of that coaching staff is just in their early stage of going through what it means to be an NFL defensive coordinator. And you and I talked about it on a podcast earlier this year. I'm going to look his name up because I remember he was a linebacker for him. But I'm just telling you right now, like for this defensive coordinator's first task, hey, congratulations, you're the new defensive coordinator. For your first game, you get to go up against some guy named Andy Reid. Have fun with that. But yeah, I mean, so let's see, Zach Orr. Zach Orr is going, who's been a linebacker before. He's going to the Ravens DC. And then their passing game coordinators, Chris Hewitt, has been there for a while. And then Todd Monken is the offensive coordinator. But a sneaky thing that happened, we'll see how it works out. There's actually multiple former Chiefs on there. Mark DeLone is the inside linebackers coach who used to be here, but I think he was before Andy, if I remember correctly. Greg Lewis, who was here, is the wide receivers coach there. So there's some of that aspect of it. And he did not necessarily work with him directly, but they recently just hired offensive line coach George Warhop because their previous line coach is having to step away right now and have to deal with treatment. They didn't disclose what his illness is, but if somebody's going to have to step away like that, it's pretty legit and you're hoping everything's okay or everything's going to be okay for them. But with George Warhop, George worked with the Browns before, if I remember correctly. So, I mean, he's spent time. George has been around kind of the Andy Reid tree, if that makes sense. And I know he was in consideration for the O-line coach job here back in 2013 when Doug Peterson accidentally let it slip on the phone conference. So,
yeah, and Mark DeLeon was on Bob Sutton's staff here.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
that's an interesting point to it, Nick, because you're right. I mean, the Ravens defense is not going to be the same as last year. I mean, the Chiefs have that challenge and that they're going to have an entirely new concept that they're going up against. But that's the challenge for the Ravens too, because they're feeling their way out. It's their first game under a new coordinator, new system, all of these things. And they're not going up against the 2023 Chiefs offense. They're going up against the 2024 offense that I think is going to be significantly better. But I mean, this is the way too early look out to that game. And I know that wasn't exactly Gabo's question, but I'm answering this one. You're right. I mean, the ability of the Ravens to run the football on the Chiefs is probably going to determine that Thursday night opener because they did not run the football enough in the AFC Championship game. Got away from what they do best. You know that they're not going to make that same mistake twice. They're going to make the Chiefs stop the run.
You would think they're not going to make that same mistake twice.
You would think.
But let's see if Todd delivers on that or not.
But the Gabo's question specifically, I mean, I'm not as worried about communication with a corner because your edge corners, outside corners are usually on an island. I mean, they're not as in tune to the communication, as you will, and much to the play as the other guys are. I mean, they're sometimes just, literally that's their job out there. I mean, unless it's in a zone of something or you got to be, know who you're handing off coverage to and everything. That's different. But, usually those guys are on an island for a reason. I mean, you're trusting them out there. But I also think that, if the Chiefs don't have a number 2 defined corner, they're going to match up. So they're going to go, the guy who gets the most snaps each week is going to be the guy that they think matches up best against that particular receiver that they're going to be facing. So, now how much will the Chiefs do anything differently with Trent McDuffie? Will he travel? I don't think so. I have not seen any indication of that yet. Will he end up playing more in the slot than he does outside? We don't know. I mean, there's a lot of things that we're going to be finding out week 1, just like the Ravens are going to be finding out, Nick. I mean, we'll know for sure when the Chiefs roll out there how they're going to approach this. So, I mean, I'm not expecting them to have a number 2 cornerback nailed down by week 1. Maybe they will, but if it's a rotation in the first quarter of the season while they figure out what their best matchups and what their best lineup is, Steve Spagnuolo's been down that road before. Not his first rodeo.
But it'd be fun if it was.
If it was his first rodeo?
No.
His first rodeo was probably like 40 years ago. See?
It happens.
If you had time travel.
All right, Matt.
But maybe he's never been to a rodeo.
It's 9:21.
All right. I've exhausted Nick. I'm letting him go. Everyone, thank you so much. A lot of questions tonight. Hopefully we answered yours. Didn't pontificate too much. Hope you enjoyed everything. All the video that Nick brought because Nick is the best. All the snap counts that Nick brought because Nick is the best. Me presenting a trophy to Steve Spagnuolo because Nick is the best. All these things are true.
And I left you your final piece of video for the night.
Have the final piece of video. So we'll go out on the reminder that you should listen to 41 is the Mic podcast. We'll be back with 41 is the Mic sometime Friday morning, because Thursday night game, it'll be Friday morning. Just maybe even early Friday afternoon by the time it hits your various viewing and listening portals.
Yeah, and if you're in the Kansas City market, the game will be on 38th the spot for reasons out of our control. It'll be on 38th the spot. I'm not going to say why. You'll figure out that night, but it'll be on 38th the spot. The pregame show I'm doing starts at 7. Kickoffs at 7:20. And if you have YouTube TV or Hulu TV, if you have rabbit ears antenna in the Kansas City market and you scanned your TV, it should pop up. But if it doesn't and you still have good internet, the Chiefs streamed the last game, and according to their website, they will have this game to stream too on ChiefsDigest.com. So that is another way, another option, another way you can watch it. But I would strongly encourage you to check out 30th Spot first, because that is part of the business I work for.
And I haven't tried it. I don't recommend it to anybody because I'm sure there's a little bit of a chance of, weird things happening. But I did see, Mick, that people were just using paper clips to put in their antenna and get 38 the spot last week. So I just have some old rabbit ears that I use on both my TVs that work fine.
Yeah, I don't have any comment on that. I do not know anything on that part of it.
But I will be at the game on Thursday, so I won't be watching on 38 the spot. I guess I'll be watching on 38 the spot in the press box because it will be on the TVs there. You will be running pregame, postgame, all that fun stuff.
We will have pregame, but
no
10 o'clock news will
10 o'clock news will preempt the postgame. I forgot about that.
There's no preempt. It'll do the
do your job.
We'll see, because there is an event going on this week that I don't know how long that will run. The night that your late local news might be very, very late. Potentially, because I know local news didn't go till after 11:30 last night.
Which is one reason why you will not probably be getting the podcast from Nick and I until Friday morning.
So that's all I got for you. We wasted another 3 minutes of your time, and I apologize.
That's all my fault, everybody. Hey, have a great week. We will see you Friday morning on your various streams with 41 is the mic. Back next Tuesday's next week's gonna be crazy because we're gonna have deadline cut down day. So I will probably be doing a live stream earlier. We might not even do the Tuesday night question and answer because I don't know what Nick's availability is going to be. Maybe we will still squeeze it in there.
I'm off.
It's
just a matter
you're
of
off. I mean,
a matter of what you need to do with because I mean those we should know most of those by 5 o'clock. I would assume maybe 6.
Last year I launched the live stream at 3 o'clock. And that was my first live stream ever. So that was and people actually showed up. So I appreciate that. So hopefully you'll show up again this year, and we'll talk about the roster, what it looks like, what the moves are being made, and you might even just find out about them as we all go along and have some fun. So everybody have a great week, and we will see you down the road. Take care, and going out.
It's all things Chiefs right here. 41 is the mic, a Chiefs podcast on your home of the Chiefs. Listen now wherever you get your podcasts. Also available to watch on KSHB 41's YouTube page.